All right, welcome everybody to the regular Galt City Council meeting for November the 1st, 2022. Can we have a report from closed session, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Council convened in a closed session to discuss labor negotiations with the groups designated and listed on the agenda. Council received information from staff and provided direction to staff. There is otherwise no reportable action.
All right, thank you. I'll now call the meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu?
Here.
Councilmember Papineau?
Here.
Councilmember Vandenberg?
Here.
Councilmember Lozano?
Here.
Mayor Farmer?
Here. If everyone would please join us in a silent prayer followed by our flag salute. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tina, can you please read our replay statement?
This meeting of the Galt City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed caption and webcast at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will air Friday, November 4th at 9 a.m. and Saturday, November 5th at 9 a.m. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/MetroCable14.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item F, agenda approval, additions and/or deletions. We do have item L2, which is from the Finance Department. It was the procurement policy update. We have, the city manager has asked to move that to the November 15th council meeting. Do I have any additional changes, council, staff? Okay. Just for the people in the room, I'm assuming a lot of you are here for the item L4 for the baseball contract, I'll call it. Just let you know that it is a little ways through the agenda, so if you want to, we do play the meeting in the lobby on the screen, so if you want to, some of you in there so you don't have to stand all night, I'm just offering that to you. Okay. All right, first item is going to be item G, presentations. It's going to be from the Galt Community of Character Coalition presentation, the Pride in Community Award.
Good evening. I'm Mary Martinez with the Galt Community of Character Coalition, and this is a nonprofit that has been in Galt for the past 15 years, promoting good character that, in fact, this community selected 15 years ago. Tonight, we're looking at two individuals who were chosen for Pride in Community, and I'd like to call them forward, and that's Christy and Devin McLeod. And I'd like to read the narrative that was put together by those in the neighborhood. Our neighbors, Christy and Devin McLeod, are true role models of pride in community. As leaders of our neighborhood watch for the past 20 years, they plan and put in motion many fun activities that bring neighbors together to get to know each other. They welcome new neighbors and keep everyone connected. They put together fun events for everyone, like snow cone trucks in the summer, hot chocolate evenings in the winter, Taco bars, etc. From these get-togethers, we come to know and care for all the neighborhood's children and grandchildren. Christy and Devin check in on elderly and sick neighbors, as well as families with new babies. During the pandemic, they kept everyone in touch and arranged outdoor distance get-togethers so we could see each other and take stock of how everyone was coping. We know that strong neighborhoods are the backbone of vibrant, wholesome communities. Studies show that neighbors who get to know and trust each other experience less loneliness and achieve greater health and safety. To increase our safety, Christy and Devin have also invited Galt police representatives for a neighborhood watch meeting. In addition, Christy and Devin are living busy and fulfilling lives with their own 3 children and grandchildren. They are active volunteers in their church community. As teachers in Galt, both Christy and Devin impact the lives of our young people, giving them the skills necessary to succeed in life. Devin is an exceptional high school teacher in Galt and often volunteers his time to tutor students. Neighbors say that Christy and Devin are the kind of people that leave others feeling seen and cared for, and everyone and everything they touch make this town a little better than before. As a result of their leadership, kindness, and perseverance, they have developed and nurtured a culture of neighborliness, caring, and pride in our community. And they were nominated by Anna and Brandon Young, with other appreciative neighbors, including Dennis and Tanya Freeman, Mike and Claudia Schrader, Daniel and Alondra Anaya, Thomas and Maria Blas, Mike Von Tour, and Mary Martinez. So please come and accept your award. Congratulations. So welcome. Can we just pause for a picture?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to Mr. and Mrs. McLeod for what you guys do. Appreciate that. All right, moving on to item H, public comment. Tina?
Under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the City Council on non-agenda items. The public comment section is for the City Council to receive comments, except for brief responses to questions. No discussion or action may be taken on any item that is not listed on the agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Due to the statewide emergency, public comments may also be submitted as noted above via the options listed on the first page of the agenda for providing live public comment or prior to the meeting via email to pubcom@cityofgalt.org by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting, which will be distributed to City Council, made part of the official minutes, and posted on the city's website prior to the meeting, but will not be read out loud.
All right, just for the people in the room, know that this public comment is for non-agenda items. So if you're here to speak on a specific item, you will be called up during that discussion on that item. So this is just for non-agenda items. Do we have any public comment?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right, moving on to item I. Reports by city council members on regional boards, commissions, and committees. We'll start with the vice mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to report, but regional transportation, we are meeting next week. I will report the next council meeting. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Papineau?
I didn't have any meetings.
Mr. Vandenberg?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Air Quality Board, which was fairly uneventful for generic finance, but mostly everybody said goodbye to Mr. Natoli, which was quite nice to hear. He's been an outstanding representative for the community. It was a pleasure to sit in on that meeting, so I thank you very much, Mr. Pompanow, for giving me that opportunity. I also was on the Consumnes Groundwater Authority. And since there's a lot of people here, that meeting was a little uneventful, but the previous one was more eventful because you should all know that the 2 tunnels are rebranded and are back in the works. So it's a 20-year project, but they still want to do them, just so you all know. And that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Lozano.
Excuse me, sir. We can't get into a conversation. There is public comment at a certain point, but not that's out of order.
Yes, so I had a SACOG board meeting last Thursday, and we awarded some contracts for legal services and talked about our SACOG strategic plan moving forward. So it's pretty, really uneventful. There was a workshop related to planning as around transit-oriented development, and so that was pretty interesting. Not a lot would apply here because we don't have rail necessarily, light rail or other rail coming through that carries passengers and has stops here. But if that were the case, they were talking about how you build housing and retail around those to make it vibrant. So I will stop there, and that's all I have to report.
All right, thank you, sir. I myself did not have any official meetings since the last council meeting, so I have nothing to report. And Mr. Lusenheiser, if you'd be welcome to talk with Mr. Vandenberg after the meeting about what he mentioned. No problem, sir. Okay. All right. Moving on to our information consent calendar. It is recommended that items 1 and 2 be acted upon simultaneously unless a separate discussion and/or action is requested by a council member. Do I have anything from council on the consent calendar? All right. Well, with that, I'll be looking for a motion to approve 2 items. Item J1 is the minutes of the regular meeting for October the 18th, 2022. And item J2 is receive and file warrants for a period ending October the 19th of 2022.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Vandenberg, seconded by Councilman Lozano. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu.
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau.
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Consent calendar approved 5-0. Moving on to item K, scheduled matters and notice of public hearing. Our first item this evening is going to be K1, the Summerfield at Twin Cities Road Project, the appeal of the Planning Commission denial of request for tentative subdivision map modification of condition A20. So this item is an appeal of the Planning Commission September 8th, 2022 denial of Homes by Towns request for a tentative subdivision map modification of condition A20 for the Summerfield at Twin Cities project. This appeal hearing is being conducted pursuant to the authority contained in section 18.68.060 of the Galt Municipal Code, as well as procedural requirements created by case law. My role as the mayor will be to act as the presiding officer over this hearing. The City Council's role in this matter is to decide whether to uphold the Planning Commission's administrative decision to deny Homes by Towns application for reconsideration. Before proceeding, the city attorney will provide a brief overview of these procedural requirements to ensure these proceedings are conducted in accordance with all due process requirements. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor said before you this evening, council is an appeal of the decision of the Planning Commission to deny Homes by Towns application to reconsider the request for a modification of condition A20. This appeal is brought by Homes by Town in accordance with Galt Municipal Code, subdivision 18.68.040. Upon receipt of the written notice requesting appeal, the action of the Planning Commission in this matter is suspended pending the appeal. In accordance with sections 18.68050, subdivision B1, if a final action of the Planning Commission is appealed, including an action taken on the appeal of a discretionary action taken by the Planning Commission, the city clerk shall set the application for public hearing by the city council. The decision of the city council on any such appeal shall be final upon entry of an order or adoption of a resolution containing the council's decision to affirm, modify, or reverse the action of the planning committee. Pursuant to Galt Municipal Code Section 1868.060 Subdivision B, the City Council has the authority to establish its own rules for the conduct of this hearing. Under this authority, the City Council will consider the record below, as well as such additional evidence as may be offered at this hearing. The council will then affirm, reverse, or modify the Planning Commission's decision, or it may make or substitute such other additional decisions as it may find warranted under the Development Code. This hearing is intended to make sure the City Council has reviewed all submitted evidence and the administrative record, and is prepared to listen to all evidence and testimony presented during this hearing and to render an impartial judgment based on the evidence before it during this hearing only at this appeal hearing. And that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Splendario. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a quick comment to make. For full disclosure, I want to let the community and everybody know that on October 17th, in preparation for this coming up on our agenda, I did visit two developments by this builder, Whispering Creek at Morgan Ranch, which is in Roseville, and it was one unsold home. And then I looked at three model homes and farms at Riolo at Mariposa. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that ahead of time, and that's all.
All right, thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
I would like to also disclose the information. I did met one of their representatives. Name is Mr. Dickinson. We just met as see the project, but nothing material discussed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Since we're doing that right now, I myself did have a conversation with our department head, Mr. Hoffman, regarding the project. I had some questions. He answered those questions according to staff report. I also was contacted by the developer by email asking for a meeting, which I politely declined in lieu of this hearing. So, moving on. The contents of this appeal and its supporting evidence are before the council. The appeal procedure will be as follows. Number one, I will open the public hearing, and the city staff will first present their staff report. Second, representatives for the appellants and will then present their appeal and any evidence related to their appeal. Third, members of the city council may then ask questions of either the appellants or the city staff. Number four, members of the public will then have an opportunity to comment on the appeal. As normal, each speaker will have a maximum of 5 minutes. And number five, representatives of the applicant will then have an opportunity to present additional evidence in rebuttal to points raised by appellants, the public, or questions posed by the city council. We are now ready to proceed with this matter. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of publication of this appeal hearing?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We will now proceed with the staff report on this item. Mr. Hoffman.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The Summerfield at Twin Cities project was originally approved by City Council in September of 2020. And the City Council, at that point in time, at that part of that original approval and hearing, added condition A20 to require a specific amount of homes, sizes, and percentages. This condition was crafted by the council at the public hearing, and again, it identified 5 different tiers, percentages within those tiers. And at the time, this condition was added in a context of a project going north of Twin Cities Road, a general plan amendment is part of it, and a rezone. And at that point in time, the applicant and the property owner were identifying that this was going to be an executive style type housing. And so this condition was added to create a feel and look for what an executive housing product could be. And the Summerfield project was promoted as something the community did not have. Homes by Town subsequently purchased this property, and in the time of the approval of this project, we've had numerous conversations with developers that wanted to take a look at this project and this condition would come up. And staff have always indicated this condition was different. Although it is just one of numerous conditions that reflect and govern the subdivision map, it's a little bit more special because it was crafted in the context of maybe why this project was going to be approved or denied at the city council level. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 8th, 2022 to discuss the applicant's requests, and Planning Commission denied the request by a 4-0 to 1 vote. We had one abstention. And the Planning Commission did not identify new information that would justify amending the condition consistent with the findings required, and upheld the project condition to provide a more executive-style housing product. The Planning Commission did not find that the modified condition as being proposed by the applicant tonight would result in an executive-style housing that was originally envisioned. As a matter of policy, Community Development Department staff does not counter the policy and direction of the City Council. The staff recommendation is to uphold the council condition. And that's essentially staff's presentation tonight. This is a condition that came from the council, and staff supports that condition, and staff supports the findings that the Planning Commission made in upholding that upholding that condition previously. And that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions that I might be able to answer.
Okay, well, our next, thank you, Mr. Hoffman, for that. What we will do is the appellant will have his opportunity to make a presentation, and then the council will have the opportunity to question either the staff or the appellant. So at this time, if a representative of the appellant would now like to present their appeal. However, the appellant's presentation will be limited to the issues raised in the appeal application. Good evening, sir.
Hi there. Good evening. I do have hard copies of a presentation if you guys are interested in reviewing.
Come up if you like.
I'll put it in the file. Thank you.
Hi there. So good evening. My name is Chris Dickinson. I'm with Town Development of Sacramento. First off, would like to just thank you for your time and your consideration this evening. In addition, I'd like to thank staff. They've always been very accessible and professional. A quick intro on Town Development of Sacramento. We are a somewhat unique development company. We're a 71-year-old real estate and development construction company. We're a private company, but what makes us unique is we're owned by a nonprofit charitable trust. And so while we are a for-profit company, those revenues go to feed a charitable organization that gives throughout the country to fight both to fight poverty and promote education. We've been operating in Sacramento since the mid to late 90s. And have developed thousands of homes in the region. And so while we are new to Galt, it isn't for a lack of trying. Galt has been a market. We've attempted to buy a handful of properties, and for one reason or another, always ended up in second place. So moving on to slide 2. But as of April of this year, we did purchase the Summerfield property. And Summerfield is a 204-lot subdivision approved in 2020, located at the corner of Twin Cities and Moringa. This is designed as a gated community with a private park and an average lot size of 7,500 square feet. We envision this as a step-up community. and are considering plans that'll include a standard 3-car garage, oversized loggia, and 4th-car garage options. These are our most popular structural options, and so we're trying to incorporate those as a base level here for Summerfield. In addition to these structural options, buyers will have the full spectrum of upgrades in a community, gourmet kitchen, dedicated workspace options, first floor bedroom suites for multi-generational living, theater rooms, multiple locations for fireplace, prep kitchens, and more. So between these structural options and the interior options that'll be offered, we're going to offer these at a price point not available in suburbs to the north, in the Thomas and Elk Grove. We think this will be a community in high demand. And so, in addition, I think we're going to offer a spec level that's not currently offered in Galt. Moving on to slide 3. So what we are here to discuss tonight is a modification of condition A20 to restructure the existing condition from 5 tiers down to 3 and reduce the percentage requirement for each tier. I'll go into further detail as to reasons why we're requesting the modification, but it really comes down to 3 reasons. The first is market preference towards single-story homes. The current condition is going to result in too many 2-story homes, and we want to be able to offer as many single-story homes as the market will demand. Reason number 2, market preference has really steered away from the homes in excess of 3,000 square feet. We do think there is a market for these larger homes, but it'll be at levels, but not at the levels required by the condition. And then finally, we would just like to have more flexibility on matching the plan types and the lots. We don't want to be in a position at the back end of the project where we are unable to offer the most popular plans because we've checked the box for that square footage. Moving on to slide 4. So the slide 4 has the existing condition for you to read. As Craig mentioned, this condition was crafted on the fly by the City Council, and during that meeting, the council members did state a willingness to modify the condition once a builder purchased the property. I believe our concerns are unintended consequences that of the condition that will result in an inferior product and an inferior neighborhood than what we could otherwise achieve. So I tried to structure our proposal to not just alleviate our concerns, but to keep within the intent of the council that night. We think the structural features and options that we're going to be offered are going to offer that move-up community that was intended that night. Moving on to slide 5. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on each of those reasons. So concern number 1, this condition is going to result in too many 2-story homes. In our move-up communities, buyers prefer single-story homes at a rate of 4 to 1. 2-story homes are prevalent in entry-level communities because they're cheaper to build, not because they're more popular. The photo in the slide there is an aerial photo of our Morgan Ranch subdivision in unincorporated Placer County. A move-up community we envision as being similar to Summerfield, larger lots, bigger homes, and as you can see, the majority of those homes are single-story. So condition A20 has the potential to result in almost 60% of these homes being 2-story, which again we think is an unintended consequence of the condition, drafting it on the fly, and because the developer had not analyzed the sizes with any type of architecture before agreeing to that condition. Slide 6, so you might be asking yourself, how does this condition result in so many 2-story homes? And the answer is the required home sizes in combination with the city coverage limits on these parcels, which is 50%. And so coverage is calculated with more than just living area. It includes garage space, front covered patios, loggia, And so starting in the third tier of the requirement, the 2,800 square foot home, we're forced to either offer a 2,800 square foot home that's single story but pretty bare bones, versus something that with more amenities, which we would prefer to offer. So, as mentioned, we want to offer as many single story homes as possible, and we want to offer as many options and amenities as possible as well. But we can't do both as the conditions drafted. Slide 7, home size. So the tier percentages as envisioned just don't match up with the marketplace. Their communities don't develop with an even distribution. Generally, the most popular home sizes in our step-up communities are the 2,300 to the 2,700 square foot home range, with fewer homes at the fringes. So the smaller homes aren't as popular as are the larger homes. So generally, what we have found is that the homes in excess of 3,000 square feet are really not coveted like they were in the early 2000s. And this is really due to two reasons. There's a buyer preference towards amenities, the extra garage space, the loggia. They're putting that money into upgrades as opposed to that fifth bedroom that never gets used. And then item 2 is cost. And so the base price of these homes that are in excess of 3,000 square feet is so great that we find that the spec level ends up being a lot lower. So, at the end of the day, we'll see a 2,750 square foot home that's as valuable or more valuable than a 3,000 square foot home. Moving on to slide 8. So finally, we're looking for some flexibility. Again, the 20% threshold tier is not a realistic outcome. It's not mathematically possible the way the conditions drafted. That 20% doesn't go into 204 evenly. But really, invariably, with every community we build, there's going to be those 2 or 3 plans that just take off and are just hit the mark, and they're the most popular. And so we want to be able to try to match those plans with the buyer, with the right lot. And so our concern really is that you end up getting a partway through the project, and we're only able to offer the homes that aren't as popular as some of the others. Additionally, we don't pre-plot entire communities, so we release 4 to 8 homes at a time. And try to match the buyer preference with the preferred lot. So reducing the percentage requirement in each tier would give us that flexibility we're looking for. And so with that, slide 9, first and foremost, we're excited to be here in Galt. Summerfield's going to be a great project either way, but I think if we can modify condition A20, it's going to allow us to offer a high quality product that can match consumer preferences and give us some flexibility in the project to make a good project great. So with that, thank you for your time and consideration, and I'll try to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for your presentation. We'll now allow the city council to question either, and I'm sorry, I totally apologize, Mr.
Chris, you can just call me Chris.
Chris. Can question Chris or Craig? Anybody want to start off?
I do have a question that just kind of popped into my head. You mentioned that of the 204 lots, the concern with the larger home is that you would have to pre-identify lots, which isn't ideal, although builders do that all the time, with specific home plans, correct?
Correct. So we would go through, generally we don't pre-plot 200 lots. We have our 5 or 6 plans that we would be approved, and then we would, again, just our first few releases would end up being a spectrum, across the board, trying to figure out what's most popular. But then at some point, we're just going to tailor those plot plans to what the buyers are looking for.
So given that, and I understand that 20% you can't evenly divide that into 204. I get that. That aside, how many of the lots do you expect under the current condition of A20 will have to be pre-identified?
Well, so when you go to the larger home, they become 2-story. So the coverage doesn't become an issue because you're essentially dividing the overall square footage in two. So it's really a combination of the 2-story homes not being a market preference, and we would have to have at least, at a minimum, 40% of the homes would be 2-story, which just doesn't match buyer preference.
So, and each one of those 2-story homes would have to be on a pre-identified lot? Is that what you're saying?
No. We would have that flexibility. It's really that middle tier we would have to identify. And then once we get into the structural options, so it's that third tier which has become the problematic with it doesn't fit when we pre-plot it with a third car garage as a standard feature, and then the additional loggia and the fourth car garage. That's where it becomes problematic.
Okay. Mr. Hoffman, I have a question regarding coverage. My understanding was coverage as it related to, like, let's say a room, you wanted to do an ADU or a room addition, that the coverage was living space. But what I heard tonight was that it is any outdoor covered area or garage, like where you park your car.
It's any structure on a property counts as covered space, whether it's a porch, whether it's an awning, whether it's some type of little storage unit in the back. It's the garage. It's everything that covers a piece of property.
So just for clarification, so I understand, if I were to put on my home I'm going to call it aftermarket, I know it's probably the wrong term, but a patio cover, one of those metal patio covers, that gets counted into my coverage area?
Lot coverage, yes.
Okay. That's all I have for right now.
Chris, so the average lot size is like, I just saw it here, I have like 25 papers on my desk here.
It's a hair under 7,500 square
Under
feet.
7,500, okay. So that's going to be the average lot size. What would be some of the larger lot sizes?
They max out at 12,788. I know I don't have the lot count in front of
Okay.
me, but we have several in excess of 10,000 square feet.
I tried to look at the diagram that was presented to us, but when you zoom in, it got kind of blurry. So I was trying to see how many I thought were, I mean, I understand if you get back corner cul-de-sac and that kind of thing, you can have large lots, but like, I mean, what percentage, just ballpark, do you think are going to have lots in excess of 10,000? 20%, 10%?
I think it's probably just a hair over 10%.
Hair over 10%, okay. So I did some research today. I was thinking to myself, executive housing. I even Googled the word executive housing just to see what the internet would say it was. So I asked some of my customers today as they're coming in, I said, what would you consider executive? Like if you were to say, I'm going to move to an executive home, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to and I asked quite a few people. The number one answer was, well, it was a combination. A lot of them agreed it was a combination. They said, well, large square footage, large lot. You think of an executive style home, you think maybe a house that has, when your family comes to visit, they have extra room, we can put you up in the spare room. Also a large lot, for entertaining. One guy said, well, if it doesn't have a pool, room to have a pool. Like they would figure if a house is going to be deemed executive, it would probably have to have a lot, at least enough if someone wanted to put a pool in. Amenities was mentioned, quality of the home, care of the subdivision, obviously, like having an HOA, make sure that's very well maintained, which I think is super important. Nobody brought up, having a gated neighborhood, although I know it's what yours is going to have. But anyway, so there was a lot of different, but the number one answer was the square footage, and then second was the lot size. So people tend to think of an executive style home as either a large house or, a large lot. And I think it's really a combination of the both, because I don't think anybody in this room would consider a 1,200 square foot house on even 1 acre as an executive home. I just, and on the flip side, I don't think anybody that would consider a 5,000 square foot home on a 6,500 square foot lot an executive home. When it comes to amenities, I mean, I live in a small house since my wife and I downsized, and I could put the best flooring in my house, have the best paint, the best door. I could put gold faucets and gold toilets in every room, and it's not going to make it an executive house. So I think it's a combination of all those things.
Sure.
What I'm concerned with here is, and I don't disagree with anything you said about the market, I do think that the age of two-story houses for the common person is not desirable. I would prefer a single-story house myself. I had a two-story, and it was, and as you get older and maybe people have more expendable income, they don't really want to go into two-story homes because of the stairs and all that. But when this project came to us, it was presented as you've even restated here, something that Galt doesn't have. Well, our vice mayor here lives in Keystone Homes, which is probably, I would say, one of the more affluent neighborhoods in Galt. I was just looking at Zillow right now, and you'd be hard-pressed to find a house that's under probably 2,800, 2,900 square feet. I mean, most of them are 37, 38, even 4,000 and more. So at the time when this project was presented to us, I never thought that that was true, that this was going to be something we didn't have, other than the project has a wall around it and a gate, which to me, that's the only thing that makes it much different. So I understand that you guys, or not you guys, but your predecessors were trying to say, but we're going to make it, all these different combinations of things are going to make it an executive style, desirable place for people to live. And so I struggle with what you're coming to ask here because, and for all transparency, I voted no on the project in the beginning. It was not the same council, but I was the only no vote on this because I didn't like the location. I didn't like the farmland, going out into farmland and the rezone and all that. I just didn't think it was appropriate. I would have preferred it be somewhere else. But the council approved it, and we were like, they were like, oh, it's going to be a great project. But I feel like right now we were sold a Mercedes, and you're coming to us trying to give us like an Isuzu or something. And I think that you can put all the amenities in that Isuzu and you can make it have all the features, and it's still never going to be a Mercedes. I think if people want an executive style house in a really nice neighborhood like what you first were going to build, I think that's what the people were looking forward to. And so I'm going to stop my comments at that right now. Maybe I'll have a little more, but I apologize for being so blunt, but I'm just tell it like it is. So that's my feeling at the moment. Anybody else want to jump in?
I would, Mayor. Thank you. So my understanding of executive home was a little different. Not so much the size of the home, but you mentioned several amenities that you probably can't find in homes of similar size in Galt. So that's where I saw the difference that you were presenting to us. I'm not a fan of the two-story homes, people looking down in my backyard. I definitely purchased my home for that exact reason. In short, can you reiterate or tell us what the benefit? I mean, you're basically catering to the market because you feel like it's shifted. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just go back. I mean, executive housing is a very ambiguous term, I think. I'm not sure there's in your Google search if you came up with a good definition, because I've yet to find one that's at least consistent. I guess it's not a custom home, right? And the condition is only capturing size. So our understanding of an executive home is a larger than average home. It's going to be better than average quality. It's going to have potential for features not typical, so 3, potentially 4-car garage, oversized backyard patios, amenities back there, space for a pool, barbecue pit, kind of those style amenities.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. First of all, Chris, thank you for bringing tonight the explanation why you want it. And my first question, when you bought the property, you was known there was a condition on the property, and I was the part of the council when we put that condition. And I know that condition is I can say it's a little bit hard because they're putting 25, 25. They don't give no leeway at the end, 25, 25 for all the lots. The other thing is that time when we was in the council, we approved that the reason I was to prove that annexation because we wanted something different house than Galt. That time we decide if somebody want to move from smaller house to bigger house, we still be a Galt citizen. We don't have to move to El Grove or Lodi. Sure. And the three council member here was on that meeting. I believe they also know that too. The other thing I'm looking what you asking. You almost asking 50%, right? You make 3 tiers. Mm-hmm. 50% that the range we approve, but then the other 50% you want to, I can say your cushion, whatever market drove, right?
Correct. That's the intent.
And I did understand you might have a more experience than market drive. You guys have a consultant, and you guys have the property. Always the developer wants to. That's their profit. That they wants to be market. I'm agree with you. That's the every business that way. The changes you are asking is not a extra change. A lot of time developer ask the change because the market change. 2 years ago when we make that condition, now is market change. Everybody know that. Now is a 7-8% inflation. That time was a 1 or 2% inflation. At this time, I know the council make the condition, and I maybe I ask my other colleagues if there is any flexibility because we, as a city, we want, and your company did spend a lot of money on this project. We want to be successful. The other thing, we also want to stay, whatever we make a decision 2 years, be a different subdivision from the other subdivision.
Sure.
So that's the reason. The other thing is that time you would like to make more single story than the double story. What was the reason?
That's just buyer preference right now.
But that's not a market because I see all over the other developer, they have a single story, they have a double story. A lot of developers, they don't give their preference, right?
Well, I think most subdivisions, if you go up to Elk Grove or you go up to Natomas, you're going to see a prevalence of 2-story homes, and it's because they're cheaper to build. So you can get a smaller lot, you can put a larger home on a smaller lot. So that's why there's a prevalence out there. There's actually fewer options available for single-story homes from a new home builder these days. And so that's the niche we're trying to fill here in Summerfield.
The other thing is just a last question. If, for example, we can state that condition, whatever condition, how hard you can be to build that project, what can be effect on your project?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. If we don't approve it, what's the
right? If we will stay whatever condition we put back in 2020, and in your opinion, as a expert, it can be really hard to do the project, or it's cost wise.
It's gonna prolong the absorption. It's gonna lead to a lot more a longer lead of sales. Essentially, it'll be a slower project to develop. So we'll be in the project for a lot longer period of time with this condition in place.
All right, thank you. And now I have a couple questions, Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman, your recommendation is because you're looking that condition, council put that condition 2 years ago, and the reason you do not do any negotiation with the developer because, We always do negotiation. It's a big negotiation or even the minor negotiation because this is by the council decision. You don't want to, as a staff, take a decision. And I believe same thing with the planning commission. You know, they get everything and they also deny that because they want to stay that condition. It could be what kind of possibility? I'm just what there is could be possibility. If not, I like, and they asking 50%. I'm not agree with that. My personal opinion at all. Or there is any possibility? Maybe I can say, just hypothetically, maybe instead of 15, instead of 20, they can be 15, 15, 15. Then they still can be at the end of the day, they can have a 25% cushion. Market drop. If they can help anything to them, if my other colleagues agree, that's kind of my idea at this time.
Well, let me try to wade into that. There's never been a request to work with the applicant's proposal. This is the applicant's proposal. It's never been like, well, what do you guys think about 4 tiers? Or what do you think about these lot sizes? This is their proposal. It's never changed. We've never looked to try to work through that condition. We're following the council's policy, and the recommendation tonight is to deny the appeal of the Planning Commission. If this council goes in a different direction and says you want staff to work with the applicant to come up with something different, then you're going to have to tell me that.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman, your opinion. Thank you. And I'm at this time I don't have no question. I maybe have some question later on.
Mr. Hoffman, real quick, I don't mean to jump in here. I know Councilmember Papineau wants to say a few things also, but to follow up with that question, if the applicant proposed coming to you and working on a different tier system, would you have the authority to do that at your department head level?
If I get 3 votes.
No, I'm talking about before it comes to the Planning Commission or the council.
No, because there's a condition that's been set on this map, and I've never been given any direction by any body
Correct.
to do that.
Okay, that's my point, is that even had the developer come to you and said, hey, you know, this 5 tiers isn't really working because of market reasons, for all the reasons that we've talked about or heard about tonight, if he would have said, I have a proposal, you wouldn't have the authority to work with him on that change.
I would not have, not based upon what took place in September of 2020. It was too big of a deal of a condition. There needed to be a greater deal of transparency, and there needs to be direction given by either the Planning Commission or the City Council to do that.
So we're not here because people didn't want to work together. That's...
Well, I had no direction to do that, I guess, Councilman Lozano. My direction was to uphold the policy direction of council, and I feel like I've done that.
Right. No, and I would agree with that. I'm just saying that the question of whether or not the tiers would have worked or not, the applicant and nor you had the ability to unilaterally make that decision outside of this environment.
I would agree with that.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. Thank you.
Would the Planning Commission have been able to recommend that, or did they just say, we don't want to alter what was originally decided by the council? Would they have had the latitude to say, maybe, can you work with it, or that didn't get discussed?
Well, they could have, but you also have to understand the current proposal by the applicant and what the condition, they aren't even close. I mean, when you truly look at them,
No, I understand.
one is based upon market flexibility. You have these percentages But there's nothing in this condition
Yeah,
that
I'm
says you
just
couldn't
asking,
build
did
like
anybody
a
from the planning commission say, well, could we meet in the middle, or was that even brought up in the planning? meeting?
I think
didn't
we
see
had
it.
a couple of the planning commissioners looking at that, but I think they looked at the original condition as that's what the expectation for executive style housing was. It wasn't these lower percentages.
Mr. Papano, did you, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I was on the planning commission when this initially came up before it went to the prior council. And yeah, frankly, what I was envisioning was what I thought executive style housing, single-story houses with some space, amenities, nicer appointments, and that's what we talked about at the time. And this is kind of a question, I think, to Craig Hoffman and to you as well. And this comes from the perspective of someone who recently lost their back skyline of 22 years to a whole bunch of two-stories. And to put this project out where it is, in flat land, from an environmental design perspective, it doesn't seem to make sense to have a whole bunch of two-story houses now dotting the skyline. So I don't know if that's just my opinion, or is that something that should have been considered in the original design, that we're creating as little disruption as possible. Any opinion on that?
I understand your concern. I guess, again, I would just say we were never in a position to look at that type of flexibility. Again, what the condition is and what the condition is proposed at, those are a long ways away.
Sure.
I mean, they really are. When you start looking at the numbers, you've got a unit count of 99 houses out of 204. There isn't a minimum set here. Are you going to have a bunch of 1,200 or 1,400 square foot houses? This condition would allow that. I mean, that's what I mean. They're a wide range apart. They aren't even close. And I don't think you had a planning commission that was sitting back going, oh, they went down to 4 tiers from 5.
You actually make a great point, and I was going to ask that. So the remaining, I guess, would be 105 based on the third slide. What size homes will those be?
The intent is that they would still remain within those ranges.
The intent or the word written
Well,
down?
we could craft the language. Yeah, my intent in our proposal, and maybe didn't specify clearly enough, but we're not proposing 1,800 square foot homes here. The minimum home size would still be a 2,000 square foot home. They would all fit within those tiers. It just gives us the flexibility to place those units within the tier.
Sorry for cutting in, Mr. Provenel.
That's good. Good follow-up. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that was
And
clear.
Mr. Popino, I think I can maybe add a little color. We do a lot of projects that are they're kind of in a rural interface, and the number one concern with adjoining property owners is the 2-story home. They don't want the 2-story home, peering down into their home. And I know we don't have a whole bunch of property owners adjacent, but there's a handful.
Oh, no, even if they're not close enough to be looking in the backyard, they certainly a more drastic change to the skyline, so I would think fewer 2 stories would be better. The larger square footage, the 2-story house, am I correct that would, by nature, increase bedrooms?
It just depends on how you design the house. I mean, generally, yeah, once we hit, that 3,100, it's a 5-bedroom house.
Yeah. And my concern there is, while this proposal doesn't ask to increase the number of homes, increasing the number of bedrooms, therefore increases the number of people, therefore increases the number of cars. So with this executive style move up, the way I envisioned it was, the kids are gone, and you've got a house that has less cars, less people, less traffic. And that's another concern with increasing the number of bedrooms in the area that would increase the number of traffic, and number of cars on the street, and that kind of thing.
Can I make a comment on something that was made earlier as well? I don't want anybody to think that we didn't reach out to staff. We have had discussions early on when we were in due diligence on the project, and we did, and we received a clear response from Craig that, hey, this was a council decision. This isn't mine to modify. You're going to have to go through the process. So we didn't do a whole bunch of outreach because of that initial response. And I think regarding the Planning Commission last month, it was my interpretation, I could be wrong, but the sentiment was that, hey, we understand what you're saying, but again, this is a council decision. This isn't for us to make a modification to.
I don't have any other questions right now.
So Chris, it says here in your letter to us that you feel like the 2,300 to 2,700 square feet is kind of this, you can actually call it the sweet spot. You refer to it, well, I don't know if you wrote it, but it's from you guys. It says, we think the sweet spot for Summerfield is going to be a single-story home at approximately 23 to 2,700 square feet. Now, when you say sweet spot, I'm sure you're referring to part of it. You could say whatever, but I'm sure the sweet spot is, without getting into a two-story house, which obviously makes construction costs significant. I understand that. This is like we can build a single-story house up to that, and then we can get maximum dollar per square. That's the sweet spot business-wise. It also could be a sweet spot marketing-wise.
No. I'm talking demand only. We actually make more. Our margins are larger on a two-story home because they're cheaper to build. You have a smaller footprint. You have a lot less concrete. By sweet spot, there'll be a velocity of sales, and it's going to be that velocity of sales which makes it the sweet spot. Most people are going to come in and pay for that. They're going to demand that 2,400, 2,600, 2,700 square foot home. That's the sweet spot.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. They're going to want at least that. Honestly, to be honest with you, in my opinion, I don't even consider 2,500 executive style. Whatever word I'm using, executive. But I was looking at houses. I was looking at areas like, I don't know if you're familiar with like Sun West or like Rivergate. I know Rivergate's probably a really affluent neighborhood in Lodi, but Sun West is what I would consider a very executive style neighborhood. And you got 5,000 square foot homes in there. And I do agree that the two-story, I hate the way I see a lot of subdivisions where you have this monster house, small lot, they're like right next to each other. You can peer into people's backyards. I totally agree that, and Mr. Vandenberg and Mr. Papanow mentioned that. I agree. I think the ideal thing would be a larger lot. I think when you look at older homes that now are considered affluent neighborhoods, whether it's in Lodi or other areas, you are going to see large houses, but they're also going to have large lots, so you're not having that peering into people's yards kind of thing. I was just doing some quick math here, and if your minimum square foot lot is 6,500 and your minimum house size is 2,000, my lot's 65 and my house is small. You're talking about a house almost double the size of mine, and the lot's only 15% more than mine. That's going to be, again, a big house on a small lot, not much yard. I've seen your pictures here, and it just doesn't look like, I'm looking at the front yards and the backyard, and again, this is just my perception of, everybody's got their own interpretation of what a beautiful, that's my dream neighborhood, I'm going to live there. Everybody's got a different idea what that is. This, to me, doesn't look that much different than some of the homes that have been built recently in some of our other subdivisions. other than you're talking about 3-car garages, but I would like to see, honestly, bigger lots. I wouldn't be opposed to maybe doing single-story house, more single stories and less 2 stories if the lots were a lot bigger, so you could still get that feeling of whatever. But I know you're not going to do that because obviously that's going to cut into your, profit margin big time because, lots mean money, and I get it. So again, I wouldn't be opposed to having direction given to work with Mr. Hoffman, but again, I just think, honoring what our planning commission is about, and I think we delegate a certain amount of authority to them, and we trust that they're going to do the right thing, and for them to say we want to leave it as is, and then us to go undermine that, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. I don't know. And so, again, I think that I don't know what was said to you by your, the people that sold you the project. Maybe they said, oh yeah, you guys can go back to the Galt City Council or there, and they'll work with you and whatever. And then now here you are, and trying to get this changed. I mean, you bought a product knowing what it was. I mean, maybe you were like, there's a chance we're going to get it changed, but we're willing to risk that. But at the end of the day, you bought a product knowing what it was. We approved a project. When I say we, I meant the council, previous council, approved a project knowing that's what it was. Whether it was something that was made up on the fly, I was at that meeting. I mean, I was there. I think Kirk Campion was the one that said, yeah, let's do 20%, 20%, 20%. And everybody said, yeah, that sounds good. And it was whatever. And that's probably what you're referring to, on the fly, right? So, but that's what was decided. And that's what it's been since it was, it was approved. And for me, I'm leaning towards just leaving it as is, because I don't want to get in the habit of going against what our planning commission recommends to us. But again, there's 5 of us here, so I don't know.
Well, if I could clarify that, because when this came to the planning commission, I went and talked to a planning commissioner, and what I was told was they were like, well, council made that 20% decision. We can't override them. So they were just like,
no, but they could have made a recommendation to council to change it, right, Craig?
They could have, but it was, again, those are 2 very different proposals. They're not close.
Right.
Mr. Smondario, would we be able to see if there's any public comment and still have opportunity for council to have questions after that, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's
Okay.
fine.
You want to see if there's any public comment on this? Okay. All right. Do we have any public comment on this matter?
Ron Lautzenheiser.
I got a quick question first. When he started Mr. Dickinson started his presentation, he went on about the services his company provided. The money went to a nonprofit. Would it give any more influence to the council if I listed my contributions to the city and the thing before I spoke?
Please proceed with your comment. We're not supposed to have dialogue back and
Oh,
forth.
okay. Sorry about that.
Just to help you out, you have 5 minutes of public comment. You can spend it however you want, as far as it relates to the agenda item.
I wouldn't want to waste the time. It wouldn't have any effect, though.
Proceed, sir.
Okay. Actually, most of the points that I brought up in my letter, which I passed out to you people, you've covered. Quite frankly, those of us in the area, and at the time the project was approved, I spoke for 6 homeowners, including myself, whose land abutted or was a neighbor to the north and the west. And there was another lady who spoke for another 3 or 4 on the west side, and we were all against this project. We feel that the project, I was at the meeting when it was passed, and I felt that one of the principal points that passed the project was their percentages of housing, the sizes, and the executive part. I get nervous talking in front of people anymore. The executive homes were promised by the builder. Now, I feel the gentleman I was also at the planning meeting with Mr. Hoffman and Mr. Dickinson, and he admitted that his company knew about these percentages and sizes before they bought the property. So what he's doing now, to me, sounds like a bait and switch, which I'm led to believe is illegal. But it's just a personal opinion. I do not remember the Sheldon company saying anything about 2-story houses or McMansions. All they said was executive homes, and I assumed that they would have appropriate lots. They went along quite willingly with what the 2020 that the council presented, and the council seemed to agree with it. So I feel that if they want bigger homes, they should just give bigger lots. I mean, originally the land was zoned A2, and back several years before the Summerfield project came through, the county did not approve resizing the lots from 5 acres to 2 acres. I also feel that according to the Sacramento Bee real estate, there are a large number of homes sold every week in Galt for $500,000 and $600,000. On Howshite Road, which is the immediate boundary road to the west, there is a project in there. I don't know the name of the project. All the homes are on 2 and 5 acre lots. Only 1 or 2 of them, now I shouldn't say that, the majority of them are all one-story houses. And I have not heard of anyone having any problem selling those houses. And they are not 1,400 and 1,500 or 1,800 square foot houses. They are large houses with 3-car garages and large sheds and things out back. So, pardon me.
Take your time.
Yeah. Didn't used to bother me to speak in front of people. There was a comment that the homes they would, that Mr. Dickinson's company would build would not, you know, if he went with a 20-20-20, would not match the surroundings. And that kind of confuses me because the surroundings are all rural farms, 1 house on 2 acres, 1 house on 5 acres, or houses on 20 acres. How could a city project with 4 houses per acre blend in with a rural project and with a rural neighborhood that already exists? There's a couple of things he brought up today he did not bring up in the meeting. How the hell was it? Basically, most of us feel we were against the project to begin with, but when the project was approved, it was nice to hear that there was going to be large executive homes, and we feel that it should stay that way. If they have to put a bigger lot, fine. They knew lot sizes, they knew percentages when they bought the company from the Sheldon Company. And I would, once again, on the bottom of my letter, I had 3 things that I would ask.
Mr. Lusenheiser, your 5 minutes are up. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds just to wrap up, though, okay?
Okay, I would appreciate it if you could read the bottom of my letter. It's about the drainage situation. It's about a sound wall to protect our farm properties from people from the lot. And it's also pointing out all the noises, smells, etc. from the farms around the property. We should be protected in the sales,
Okay.
you know, from this.
We will, and I did read your letter, and we will. I'll ask the council. We'll look at that. We'll look back at that particular section.
Thank you.
I have to hold you to the time limit, though, sir, just to be fair to everybody else. So,
Right.
I appreciate your comments, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment?
No.
Okay. Mr. Dickinson, would you like to? We will give you an opportunity now to make any sort of rebuttal to what you've heard from council and from public comment. If you would like to do so, you're welcome to. If you don't have to, but it's up to you.
Thank you. I really don't have a rebuttal. I just wanted to say that the modification we're trying to make here today is the intent is to make a good project better. We think there'll be benefits to us, but we also think there's long-term benefits to prospective home buyers to create a desirable neighborhood that'll have a added value for years to come. So, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please go ahead.
I think to address the gentleman's point, this is beyond a pass or fail. The homes will be built. We're here to decide whether we're going to allow homes that are liked, a certain style that's liked more by the public or not. That's how I break it down. If you want to get it down to just a couple sentences, are we going to allow them to build homes on the existing lots that are more likely to sell, or is it going to be a long, drawn-out project?
Yeah, I think where we're at here is I think we have three choices. I think the choices are we allow the change, or we just deny the change outright, or we give direction for something different. That's really what we have, I think. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, I just need to say a couple of things about my time that I spent with the project applicant up in Roseville at their lot plot, or their lots there. To put it kind of bluntly, there wasn't anything that I can say, you know what, this makes it executive style. Any one thing. There were some amenities that were included in the homes that I believe did a good job of, the market will catch up and eventually they will have that. But the feeling that I got from being in all of the homes that I actually toured was that the quality seemed to be higher. When I looked at the cabinets and opened the cabinets, it wasn't pressed wood. It was, quality wood. It was quality projects. I asked one of the folks there that was part of the construction end of things. We were talking about cracked foundations, and he explained that they have this additive they have the concrete companies put in so that it, you're going to get cracks, but it won't crack as easily and as wide. It's like a fiberglass material. The fixtures were something that you would not necessarily see at your retail, home goods store or things like that. They were really high quality. Does that make it executive? In my mind, I think it's like everyone's really said, is kind of a mixture of all of those things. But I was impressed with the product. And again, I wanted to put eyes on and my hands on their product to know kind of what they're bringing either way. So I just wanted to point that out. I would agree with the vice mayor and others about, market drives things, and I certainly understand not wanting to have a bunch of two-stories in a small community like that. I personally live in a community that has all one-stories, just because that's what my desire was. But I'm not the market either, and so there are people out there that still want two stories. I would be willing to be flexible to a degree, trying to keep the intent of what the original council wanted. And so I look forward to having more discussion about it, but I just wanted to point out those couple of things. And again, if you were to ask me, Rich, what was it that made it executive? I think it was just the quality. And again, I've been in many model homes over my time with many builders in my adult life, and it was impressive. And I worry about the price point, especially in this market. Whether or not somebody's going to buy a 3,800 or 3,700 square foot home anywhere really, but certainly here. And so I just want to bring those up for my colleagues to hear my thoughts on. Again, it was an experience that I'm glad I took because I just didn't know the company and I didn't know what product they developed. So the one other thing I was impressed with, everybody has to hear this. They have a 4-car garage, and there's 2 garage doors. So you have access to the rear yard. And I know that's not something new, but the way it was laid out in this one particular house was actually very good. And the way the lot was laid out provided for a bunch of different options for the homeowner. And I happened to drive by and look in, and they were actually using both garage doors. And so it was pretty cool to see that as well. So.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to remind everybody, this is a public hearing, so before I close that, I will have an opportunity if anybody would like to speak. they can do so. Go ahead, Mr. Pepino.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts. Love my neighborhood, but when I bought, I didn't feel like I was coming in as an executive. I found a elevation that I liked and a color that I liked, and then I was showed that, like, well, you could get that on these 2 lots. And so I'm gonna have to, well, okay, you know, and the way I understand this, it's kind of more of a flexibility where, you know, I like this model, and I like that lot. Will these go together? And you can kind of make that what you really want. I think that the 20% breakdown, perhaps unintentionally, limits that and is going to create a lot more predetermined lot spaces, you know, they'd have to have. And it also certainly sounds like it's going to force a lot more building up with a lot more 2 stories. And, you know, I get that the intention was to guarantee that we're going to have certain sizes, but as long as we have a guarantee that we're not going below 2,000 square feet, you know, I do have a problem with, you know, going out there. I understand that this is an incursion into what's always been agricultural land, but I think putting, well, but an excessive number of 2 stories out there in the skyline is an unintended consequence of this 20% deal. So, you know, I would certainly be inclined to give some flexibility to remedy those 2 things that it's causing.
All right. Again, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone who wishes to speak, they can come to the podium. Is that right, Frank? Yeah. So I'm going to ask if there is anybody. If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. So again, public hearing, if anybody wants to speak. All right. Then I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. The public hearing is now closed. The City Council will now deliberate, as we already have been, and act on the appeal. Staff, is there any additional comments or guidance that you would like to provide before?
Just, Mr. Mayor.
Hold on. Go ahead. I was asking the staff if they had any additional comments before we finish discussing. Sorry.
I guess the only other comment that I'd offer the council is my preference would be that you don't get to a point where you're trying to make this condition work. My preference would be that you uphold the Planning Commission decision. If ultimately you decide that you want staff, the Planning Commission, to work with the applicant to craft a different condition, that's fine, but I don't want to try to wordsmith this thing tonight. That starts to be clumsy, and that's not what I'm looking to do.
I agree with that, and I think that wordsmithing and conditioning in this setting is what created this in the first place. And as I say, it probably seemed good in the moment, but the unintended consequences are too much, and we would probably create a different mess if we try to do that tonight. So I'd be fine with directing staff to work with the builder to address everybody's concerns.
You know, Mr. Mayor, may I have?
Oh, go ahead. He was going to speak originally. Go ahead.
Mr. Hoffman, you know, as I mentioned before, I would like to clear on my statement. I know there is a condition, and this condition was back in 2 years ago. And I see the proposal from Chris Dickinson, and I already stated this condition he asking is not reasonable. I like same thing. I see you guys don't have that much dialogue. As a business friendly, see whatever condition, I would like to keep that condition, whatever, see if there is any flexibility between developer and bring back to us. Tonight, in this agenda item, I like to be, have the staff and the developer conversation, see what kind of keep the original a condition is a preference, see what kind of flexibility with the developer. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Hoffman, I was just going to agree with what you said. Certainly tonight's not the night to put it all together and get it figured out. But I certainly think that maybe somewhere in the middle between the applicant's proposal and what we originally came up with in terms of the intent it is probably somewhere that is reasonable. Again, I was here for the meeting 2 years ago. And, you know, with additional knowledge and with additional information, there are times where I look back at things and go, you know, I probably would have made a different decision. And I think this is one of them. And so the decision certainly wouldn't have been, you know, 5 tiers and not understanding, you know, coverage, lot coverage, and so anyhow, my direction would be, you know, to have staff and the planning commission, however that works. I don't know what the specifics would be, but works with the applicant to see what we can come up with that addresses some of the concerns that we had. One, and I think Councilmember Papineau brought up a good point with the skyline, and we recognize there's going to be 2-story homes there. But wouldn't it be nice if they were a little, maybe corner lots in the center of the property or the middle of the property or something like that, as opposed to just everywhere? So that would be my position on this. And I appreciate your help, Mr. Hoffman, through my questions about this project as we've moved forward. So thank you.
Mr. Splendario, if I may, we need to vote on this, pass or fail, or amend, or make an amendment to pass with stipulations?
Yeah, so you can approve, deny, or modify. I don't think the council's in a position tonight, has been discussed, to modify on the fly. So what I would recommend is the council, if it doesn't want to approve as presented tonight, that it denies as presented, with the stipulation that if it's council's intent, if that's what a majority of the council want, with the stipulation that Mr. Hoffman and the development team work together for essentially a resubmittal of an amendment to the tentative subdivision map, as long as Mr. Hoffman is clear enough on what those parameters are, so he's not sort of just starting over from scratch.
So Frank, what you're suggesting is we would need a motion to deny with coupled with some direction, if we wanted to do that. So
Correct.
I would like to make a motion to approve with the stipulation that no home is smaller than 2,000 square feet.
You mean deny with the stipulation?
No,
or
approve with the stipulation.
The resolution to deny is approved.
Okay. So you want to approve? You're making a motion to approve the resolution to deny with the stipulation that no house is less than 2,000 square feet. Is that correct? Just want to make sure.
That's good. 'Cause to put it in simple language, I would like to see it go forward with, as long as there's no houses smaller than 2,000 square foot, because it doesn't clearly state that.
Aren't they all? Craig, aren't they all?
That isn't clear, that is not clear within the discussion. Or
Right, because it's 33 units, and there's 204 total lots, so that leaves 105 lots up in the air, so stipulate that those should be 2,000 square foot or larger.
So what the proposal is to not approve it's basically
Right.
to not deny the appeal.
Yeah, so the resolution that's been drafted that council could approve tonight would be to deny the request for the modification to condition A20. That's the resolution before the council tonight to deny the request, for just to put it really simple, rather than say approve planning commission's denial.
But we can deny with language added.
You could deny as presented tonight. You could modify it, but I think the concern from Mr. Hoffman is that language better be pretty crystal clear not just at a conceptual level, but at a very detailed level. And if it's not, then you could direct him to either two things: come back with a revised resolution for council approval based on the direction, or if the parameters are really general and we're not that specific, simply direct Mr. Hoffman and the developer to work together on a resubmittal that would go through the planning commission or whatever discretionary body has to approve it. So you have those two options: deny, but bring a resolution back with this particular language, or deny, but work with them within general parameters and go through the discretionary process.
It says here that if the council does not do anything, then the planning commission decision stands. So could we just not make a motion to thing and just give direction for Mr. Hoffman to work with Mr. Dickinson and come back with something different and not make a motion on a vote? We can just say, we're not going to do anything. And by essence doing that, the planning commission stands.
No, because if council doesn't do anything, then there's no reason why that there's anywhere in the record that the planning commission or the city council would entertain any resubmittal.
All right.
So you need something specific from the council saying, we deny, but we direct, A, B, or C.
Well,
Frank, I mean, if we can say, bring that agenda back to in the future, and that Mr. Hoffman will work with the developer, bring back to the council, then they don't need to go back to the commission. Then that time we can make a decision if we move that agenda back.
Councilmember Sandu, if I could make a request.
Yeah.
This is an appeal, and we spent the money on the appeal. At some point in time, my direction that I want from this council is go work with the applicant. They'll file an application. We'll go to the planning commission. This is not going to be one hearing before the planning commission. This is going to be a workshop, maybe 2 workshops, and then a public hearing. There's going to have to be some vetting on this.
So there is a motion on the floor by Councilman Vandenberg. I would like to make an alternate motion that we deny the appeal.
Hold on, Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Vandenberg did make a motion, but there was no second, so there's no need to make an alternate motion. And I'm not sure if Mr. Vandenberg really made the motion. I think he was had a sort of a question. So, yeah.
I would like to have Mr. Vandenberg restate that, because I may be in a position to second. I'm just a little confused.
Yeah. The wording is rather flip-floppy. So, you understand what I'm trying to say. I would look forward to seeing the homeschool move forward as long as the minimum size lot is stipulated. I think that's all that's required. I mean, Mr. Hoffman, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't need, it's not required that we put all the other building requirements in that, right? That's already in previous documents.
Right, it's not, but this...
He's not gonna build a toothpick home if that's 2,000 square foot.
You're basically making a motion to approve their recommendation,
Yes.
stipulating that the minimum house size is 2,000 square feet. We would need to come back with a subsequent resolution, because we don't have a resolution for approval of this project. We have a resolution for denial.
That is what I move. So, I move.
I mean, this is an appeal, so this is all we're dealing with is the appeal. I'm saying, Councilman Vandenberg saying, I want the project to move forward, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the appeal. So we either need to deny this appeal and then give additional direction, or we need to approve his appeal and give additional direction. But it has to be one or the other, right?
Well, no, the council can modify it. I think the concern that Craig raised and I'm raising is the fact that we can't really draft that language on the fly at this time.
Yeah, I understand.
So, in terms of what Councilman Vandenberg just proposed, functionally is a modification of the proposed resolution. It's actually to deny the resolution, to approve the request, but to not adopt the resolution that's before you, and to direct staff to come back with a resolution that accepts the request with the stipulation on the 2,000 square feet that Councilman Vandenberg requested. That's what I'm hearing.
Correct.
I'll second that.
All right, before I decide if I want to make an alternate motion, to clarify the direction that we're giving, we're approving what's in the packet that he's presented, which is only the 16, 16, 16. We're allowing that, or we're denying it based on his motion?
The motion is to approve the
What they're
three
asking for.
tiers with the one clarification that the minimum house size within Summerfield
Okay, well,
is
then
2,000 square
Then I'm going to
feet.
make an alternate motion because I don't like the fact that it only accounts for half of the housing. There's still half the housing that's not mentioned in there. So my alternate motion would be that we deny this appeal with direction that you go back with the developer and craft something different that can come back to the planning or the council that encompasses all 100% of the homes and what they're going to be. To account for all 100%, not just, whatever percent, half.
I think that gets us to the same end, so I would second that.
Okay.
So I have a quick clarification, Mayor. My understanding is that by identifying the minimum house size as the bottom end of Tier 1, as in the staff report, everything else, all other, the balance of the 204 homes are all going to fall within these tiers.
That's not, but the way Mr. Vandenberg phrased it was, he's fine with doing it just like they're asking, except that he just wants to make sure the minimum's 2,000. So we're still only accounting for one half of the houses. There's still these 50% undetermined.
105 could be anything.
Right. Okay.
So that's what you seconded as his motion. So we will vote on the second motion first. So
We need, you seconded it.
Mr. Pavlik,
Okay.
so we have a motion by Councilman Vandenberg and seconded on the initial motion by Councilman Lozano. We have a substitute motion by Mayor Farmer, seconded by Councilman Papineau. Can I have a roll call? We're
And
voting on the
May I
second
just
motion.
ask one question of Craig, just to make sure? And are those two alternate motions clear in your mind, Craig?
Well, I think the first motion by Councilmember Vandenberg stays here. We come back with a revised resolution next meeting. The motion by the mayor, the
It requires a
planning commission-
resubmittal.
The planning commission is upheld. I work with the applicant. They submit a new application. We go back to the planning commission and we work to meet the intent of the original condition.
Correct. And I just wanted to make sure, besides the process, you understood the difference in the,
So in both, there's direction for you to work with the developer, in both of them.
Well, no, the first one just comes back at the next meeting. It's a change in the resolution.
To vote.
We have half the houses not spoken for. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to deny, I don't want this to go forward with half.
Yeah,
the
Mr.
houses.
Mayor, you have a great concern. To make it real as simple as I can explain it, if we go with your alternate motion, it's kind of a reset, goes back to the planning commission multiple times, public hearing, et cetera. If you go with my motion, it gets rewritten to stipulate all the houses, and we vote on it.
But your motion didn't include all the houses.
Yes, it did.
it did.
You said as presented.
Plus,
no.
plus a minimum requirement. That's the other 100,
Right.
105 homes.
No, it doesn't, because it doesn't stipulate the other 105 homes. It just
That's why
says a
the-
minimum of 2,000.
That's why they're going to rewrite it.
Okay.
I'll just say what I
gotten
what
a
I
little
heard.
muddy, but I
and
get it.
I'll say what I heard, and Craig, you correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing is, you want to keep the request by Homes by Town, but you want to require a floor that, regardless, none of the homes in the project can be less than 2,000 square feet. Correct. Okay.
Okay, but by doing that, you know that the homes of 2,400, 2,600 up to 37, that they're only going to be required to abide by 16%.
Yeah.
Because you didn't, right?
But they'll have to come back with something that we can approve. And after the legal explanation, if I can, withdraw my second.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, well then,
Actually, can I take a step back? The proposal, all you're going to do is get minimum houses 2,000 square feet. You're going to get 33 homes that are between 24 and 2,600 square feet. You're going to get 33 homes that are 26 to 37 the balance of the homes, which is 100 and, no, it'd be
50.
150, could be 2,000 square feet in size.
So the majority of the project's going to be 2,000.
Yes.
Yes.
It could be.
That's
it
why
could
I'm
be.
trying to clarify this, so you don't.
That's 50%. So we should be have, so that's mean they have a 50% flexibility, but.
Council members, I really don't want to try wordsmithing this here. That's
No, I
why
don't
I'm
either.
Well,
asking.
and I don't think we are. What I'm concerned though is you're not going to have clear direction because clearly this can be a confusing
Yeah.
conversation, and so I'll go give another stab at what I've heard now that Councilman Papineau has withdrawn his second. We still only have a first from the mayor, but as far as what is on the table, as far as a motion, I want to make sure the one that did second Vandenberg's motion understood it. Is we have 33 homes, 33 homes, and 33 homes in the current framework that will be so big or of such so and so size. On top of that, though, Councilman Vandenberg is saying none of the houses in the project, the total amount of house in the project, can be less than 2,000 square feet. That is the motion that you've made, and that is the motion you understood you were seconding, right, Councilman Lozano? Okay. And that would, because that would be a pretty slight modification, that would just need to be a revised resolution that would come back at the next council meeting for approval.
So potentially that revised coming back to us could be, that other 50% could be variable square footage, could be,
Well-
right? Depending on what you guys work out. I just want to clarify.
Well, no, and I'm going to jump in here though, because technically the revised resolution will only say what Councilman Vandenberg has just made a motion on, which is there's a floor of no house in the development can be less than 2,000 square feet. What ultimately gets built at that point is within the discretion of the development team. Correct. So it won't stipulate specifics in the next resolution. It'll just parrot what the motion was just made.
So just to clarify my motion again.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, please.
I'm asking to deny what they're currently asking for. Okay? Actually, I'll reword that. You know, I don't even know where to go with this. I'm not okay with approving only 16, but what we're going to end up with like 60% of the houses are going to be like 2,000 square feet. The entire project's going to be on the smaller scale based on the vague verbiage of the first motion is all I'm saying. It wasn't, the motion wasn't clear enough, in my opinion. That's why I'm trying to stipulate more that I would like Mr. Hoffman to work with the developer and come back with a whole new, this is what we want to do. And bring it to us and we can decide. If that requires a whole starting from square one, then yeah, I guess that's what my motion is including. But what I don't want to do is only say that we're going to allow Mr. Dickinson to only build 16% of the houses at the larger square footage and give him free reign to make the other entire 50% at 2,000 square feet, which is what approving the first motion would do. Am I correct?
Correct.
Exactly. So I just want to be sure that we know that. Okay. So he's still, and your second still stands. And so I make an alternate motion to take this back to the drawing board with both of you working together and kind of crafting a new language on what percentages encompassing the entire 100% of the homes. And if I don't have a motion second on that, then it won't matter.
I think you almost asking the same thing he's asking. It's not that
No.
much difference.
No.
So can you clear your
Okay.
motion again?
So the difference between my motion and his is he wants to go ahead and grant the motion is approved right here with these percentages, but he wants to make sure that the entire other 50% of a houses that's not accounted for here can just be they have to be at least 2,000 or higher. That's only he's stipulating. What I'm saying is that I would like the entire project to come back and give us a new range that includes all 100% of the houses and break those up into whatever percentages is agreed upon and with different square footages.
I will do a second on that.
All right, we have a second by Vice Mayor Sandu. So we will do a roll call on the second motion first. So can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau,
No.
Councilmember Vandenberg,
No.
Councilmember Lozano,
No.
Mayor Farmer.
Yes. The second motion dies 2-3. Can I have a roll call on the first motion, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau,
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano?
Aye.
Mayor Farmer?
No. Motion passes 4-1. All right. That concludes the appeals. Hopefully this is educational for you all that are here.
Mr. Mayor, I don't
Yes, sir.
know if it's out of line to, at this late date, discuss moving an agenda item?
We're not allowed to move that because of the specified order in which that we did discuss that. Sorry.
Okay,
But
yeah,
we're
just
almost there.
wanted to see if
We're
that-
gonna get to it quick.
Well,
We tried, folks.
I will just clarify because I looked at the resolution. It only says regular business has to be taken after the public hearing items have to be heard before any of the regular business items. The regular business items can be rearranged, but the public hearing items, which are the next 3 items, have to be heard in that order per adopted resolution.
Okay, so you're saying that we can't move item L4 up? Is that what you're saying?
We can't move any of the, we have to get through the rest of the public hearings first
Oh, right.
before we can rearrange any of the regular business items.
All right. So we have to finish the public hearing. We can't take regular calendar items and move them into the public hearing in front of that. We have to stick with that order. Yeah. All right.
Promise these will be fast.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to move on to item K2, which is the adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 15.07 of the City of Galt Municipal Code by setting forth an expedited, streamlined permitting process for electric vehicle charging stations as required by Government Code Section 65850.7. Mr. Hoffman.
Actually, good evening. I'm Zach Carver. I'm the building official for the City of Galt. And so these will keep us compliant with Assembly Bills 1236 and 970, which call for that expedited, streamlined permit process for these electrical vehicle charging stations. It does include a 7-point checklist for plan review, approval, and provides for online submittals for this process. Also, parking guidelines that are consistent with our current codes and the ADA requirements. So this adoption will keep us current with the legislature and the energy code requirements and is to be adopted and effective January 1, 2023. There is no impact to our city budget. It's paid for through our permit application and plan review fees that are already in place. Are there any questions?
I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on this item. Is there any comments from council? Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
No comment in the room on this particular item? All right. We will close the public hearing. And with that, I will call for a motion to introduce and waive the first reading by title only an ordinance of the City of Council of the City of Galt, amending Chapter 15.07 of the City of Galt Municipal Code by setting forth an expedited, streamlined permitting process for electric vehicle charging stations. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Lozano,
Second.
seconded by Vice Mayor Sandu. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu?
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau?
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg? Councilmember Lozano?
Aye.
Mayor Farmer?
Aye. Approved 4-0. Moving on to item 3, adopt an ordinance to add Chapter 15.37 of the Galt Municipal Code to enact Applied Technology Council ATC-20 Uniform Placard System. Mr. Hoffman.
Again, Zach Carver, building official. So this system is used in an emergency or disaster by jurisdictions. They use safety assessment evaluators to inspect and post occupancy allowances for residential and commercial buildings. By adopting this, the City of Galt will become a participating jurisdiction and will receive reimbursement for evaluators that are sent into a disaster area or evaluators that are called into the City of Galt. The funding comes from agencies like FEMA, CalEMA, and other state and federal agencies. There's no immediate financial impact or budget action required. We currently have 2 evaluators on staff that are certified through 2025. Their recertification fees are covered by the department training budget, and the cost to send and receive evaluators is reimbursed by our participation in this program. Are there any questions?
So just one for myself, at least. This is just in an emergency event that they come in and, right?
It could be a
Just to be clear on the
earthquake,
staff report that I read.
yeah, earthquake, fire, flood, any type of disaster like that.
Okay. I'm going to open the public comment on, public hearing on this item. Council, do you have any questions for Zach? Any comment, public comment?
No public comment.
Any comment in the room, this particular item? All right, we will close the public hearing. And with that, we will be looking for a motion to waive the first reading by title only, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Galt, adding section 15.34 of the Galt Municipal Code to authorize the use of Applied Technologies Council ATC 20 Uniform Placard System. Do I have a motion to?
Moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Sandu. Seconded by Councilman Lozano. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu.
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau.
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Approved 5-0. Last item in our notice of public hearings is going to be the continuance of the approval of the final map of subdivision improvement agreement and annexation of territory to Community Facilities District number 2020-1, annexation number 7 for Greenwood Cottages. Mr. Selling? Is Mr. Selling on his way? Mr. Hines? If he's watching the meeting, he probably is.
Here he comes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this item is a continuance of the approval of a final map and subdivision improvement agreement and annexation of territory into Community Facilities District 2020-1 for Greenwood Cottages. The engineers for the developer advised us just recently last week that the developer wishes to file a continuance of this action. And I believe, per the city attorney, we have, is it 180 days maximum? I think it's
6 months, yeah.
Yeah,
180
6 months. So they have up to a 180-day maximum time frame to finish this action. So we are asking for a continuance of this public hearing to January 17th council meeting. So about 60 days.
I'm going to open the public hearing. Do I have any questions from council for Mr. Selling?
Mr. Selling, the only my question is, did they give you the reason why they want to continue? There is,
They did not give any specific reason, no. They simply stated that the developers had advised them that they wanted to basically put the project on hold until after the new year. So that was the limits of the explanation that we received, so.
thank you.
Any additional questions for Mr. Selling from council? Do we have any public comment on this item?
No
Tina?
public comment.
Any public comment in the room? All right. Thank you, Mr. Selling. With that, I will.
No. Sorry, Mayor. Sorry. Do not close the public hearing because we're gonna
Continue it.
open it. I didn't mean to jump in on you, but I just want to make sure because then we have to do it all over again. We're going to keep it open, and then if there's a motion to continue it to January 17, 2023, that's all we would need to do. Because technically
Okay.
it's held open
Got you.
until.
That's right. It's, yeah. I saw that in the other language you had. All right. All right. Well, then I'll be looking for a motion to continue the approval of final map and subdivision improvement agreement and annexation of territory to Community Facilities District 2020-1 to January 17th of 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Vandenberg,
Second,
seconded by Vice Mayor Sandu. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu.
aye.
Councilmember Papineau.
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Approved 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, what we're going to do is we're going to move up item L4. I apologize, Mr. Farrell. We're going to move this other item for these folks that are here.
You're cutting into my valuable wine time
I
here.
know, I know.
Okay, all right.
I know. I know you're here not very often, so we enjoy your company. Yeah, we don't want to bore these folks with bonds and investments and all that kinds of stuff. Maybe they would find it fascinating. I don't know. All right, so we are going to move up item L4 for those of you that don't know what that is. This item is from the Parks and Rec Department. It's the Galt Youth Baseball License Agreement. So with that, Mr. Solis.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Mr. Solis will jump in here in a second. I just wanted to let council know that we were, in case you were wondering why we were absent from the dais, we were actually speaking with the leadership of Lickety Split, and we also spoke with the leadership of GYB, reaching some level of compromise, which will result in a suggested amendment to this MOU. Mr. Solis will provide more details. We also brought in City Attorney Splendario to look at that amendment, and we're all comfortable with it, but I wanted to give you all a sort of a preview of things to come, and we think it's a solution that the organizations can live with. And again, we'll talk more about that as we get into the presentation, but I'll let Mr. Solis present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Armando Solis, Parks and Rec Director. Can you put up this slide? Tonight we'll be discussing the Galt Youth Baseball Lease Agreement. So the City of Galt and the Galt Youth Baseball Organization have been partners since 1995 when they took over the baseball program for the City of Galt. And we've been providing them fields ever since. Our first MOU was entered into in 1995 with Galt Youth Baseball, and one was just renewed in 2020. So that's part of the background that we talked about. The 2020 is when Galt Youth Baseball took over our softball program, ages 6 to 14. And in that MOU, we talked about providing them fields to run those programs as they took them over from the City of Galt. GYB approached Galt Parks and Recreation to come into an agreement with the two organizations to provide semi-exclusive field use for Meadowview and Harvey Parks only. These are the two parks. You can see that there's 3 baseball fields. And again, the difference between a baseball and a softball field, softball is an all dirt infield. Baseball has the grass inside and typically a built-in mound. Softball is not played on baseball fields, but baseball can be played on softball fields. So in exchange for the semi-exclusive use of the 3 fields, GYB will contract with the landscaper approved by the Galt Parks and Recreation to provide weekly mowing service or maintenance service to the entire parks. And maintenance service is considered mowing, edging, and weeding. Now what that looks like, so currently the City of Galt maintains everything within the red. So in this area, we mow, we trim, we pick up the weeds, and in here, this. Galt Youth Baseball currently mows their fields once a week on their own currently. So what they are proposing is to take everything over in red for that semi-exclusive use. That doesn't mean that the public couldn't use these areas. They're just going to be maintaining them for us. They want sole semi-exclusive use of the fields, these 3 fields here. So semi-exclusive basically means that a father-son, father-daughter, mom-son could go out there and use that. What they don't want is another organization to go out there and use those fields, as they've put a lot of money into the fields, maintaining them and upgrading them. I believe the number was $40,000 they had put into Harvey Park over the summer to host their regional tournament. So the other addition to the MOU is that we would give Galt Youth Baseball priority at the sports complex. And the reason we're doing that is, again, they took over our softball program, ages 6 through 14, a few years ago. And this word typically is in that agreement because we really don't know what their numbers are. We know that they'll be taking registrations, and if they need it from 5 to 9 because they have a large number of teams and players, we would give that to them. If they don't have it to justify the 5 to 9, we wouldn't give them all that time. It's going to be what the MOU, this MOU and past MOU state, is what is necessary to provide for those programs. So their priority would be our Galt Parks and Recreation programs, the current Union High School District MOU that we have in place, the GYB MOU, which you're looking at today, and then all other field requests would come under that. In discussions with the president of Lickety Split, they have asked us to, sorry, I took a picture of what we wrote. All other field requests by any third party, including any other league, take the place of that number 4 statement. So we would ask that we amend the agreement to state that.
So, Council, what we're looking to do is amend page 10 of 10, Schedule A, in your packet, and you'll notice that under the third bullet on page 10 of 10 on Schedule A, that you have Galt's Parks and Recreation Programs as the first priority, Galt Joint Union High School District as the second priority, GYB, the MOU that we're discussing now, and we're proposing to add a 4th bullet that Director Solis just described to you.
Can you say that one more time, what you just said about the number 4?
All other field requests by any third party, including any other league.
In replacement of what?
It would be right under number 3. And here I wrote all other field requests, just to be specific that this is where everybody else would come in. They're comfortable with all other field requests by any third party, including any other league.
So you're essentially saying GYB first preference, and then you're going to give second preference to the other organizations before you go into the general public or anybody wanting to do like a fundraiser or whatever the other field request was, right?
It depends on what it is. Tournaments fall under the Parks and Recreation programs, which we approve in November. Those are typically weekends when they wouldn't be used, except that we are not allowed to schedule tournaments in the spring per the MOU to allow the Galt Youth Baseball to have their games on Saturdays.
Okay, so first I want to say, just for transparency, that I know a lot of people in all these organizations. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the people that run GYB and all the things they've done for Harvey Park and the other fields. I know they've done a lot of work and put a lot of money into that, but I equally have equal respect for all the other parents and people that are running the other programs and what they do for their organizations. And I know a lot of these people, so this is not something that I was hoping come to us. I thought this would get sorted out prior, but I have a question. So I know that I was looking at the schedule for field scheduling regarding well, first of all, let me back up. So semi-exclusive in the contract means semi-exclusive for Meadowview and Harvey.
Only.
Right? Okay. And semi-exclusive meaning that GYB is the only organized ball program that can use it, and then the public can use it, but no other organizations can use those fields. Okay. And then, but regarding the softball complex, you're just giving scheduling preference to GYB. That's the only perk they get for that.
Correct.
Right? So define for me scheduling preference as a privilege they're getting because of the contract versus just scheduling like by how many bodies. What's the difference?
So can I continue with this and then I'll get into
Sure,
it?
yeah.
So the fiscal analysis on this is that by doing that, by allowing them to perform the maintenance there, it'll go from every 2 weeks to weekly, and it will save 4.5 hours of staff time of a crew of 5 people doing that can be put somewhere else. So maybe we now do another park weekly versus bi-weekly. So it saves us about 4.5 hours every 2 weeks of a crew of 5. Now, the numbers that you're talking about, I wanted to be very specific. And here's spring and here's fall. The 3 main groups right now vying for field time are Galt Youth Baseball, Lickety Split, and American Made. I wanted to show you the numbers because fall time is different than spring. There's 613 kids and 55 teams goes to a third of what they have in the spring to the fall. I discussed this with the president of American Made, and he said that it wasn't fair. I showed him this slide. I said, well, you're getting what you're more than what we had. So if you really just look at the numbers, Galt Youth Baseball there's 150 hours, 0.5 hours of springtime for all the fields. And this has to be broken down also because, again, the softball can't be played on Meadowview and Harvey. Baseball can be played on the complex, but there's not a need to do that in the spring because we also have Greer Basin. They'll have the Meadowview and Harvey. We have McCaffrey. The problem with fall is that we have limited fields with lights.
Okay, just to interrupt you, just so I'm understanding what you're showing me. Does these hours available, is this for all 3 parks, or we're just talking about the softball complex?
These are all the parks that are available during the spring. We have 150 hours of, again, McCaffrey, Meadowview, Harvey, all of those fields that are available because there are no lights there and there are none needed during the spring and summer. This, we're talking specifically of Harvey, Meadowview, and the sports complex.
So I'm just concerned because, if Meadowview and Harvey have semi-exclusive rights to GYB and these other organizations that are listed up here can't use those fields anyways, then why are they even in this? Why are we even talking about those fields in this equation?
This is just a what's called fair. I wanted to kind of show you what the numbers look like in hours of the 60. If you broke it down per child or per team, this is what it would look like. That's what the meaning of this is, just so you can kind of wrap your head around the numbers and how much time is what people could consider as fair.
And the 60 hours of field time versus the 150, is that because seasonal, because there's the amount of hours?
Basically, the fields that are able to be used during the light. We aren't able to use McCaffrey in the fall because soccer's there. We're not able to use Greer in the fall because there's soccer there. There's other sports being played. So
so there's 150 hours to be shared in the springtime, and then in the fall there's 60 hours available. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to show this calendar kind of shows all the red are city programs. They are men's and co-ed softball. This should be a green, but it's not showing up that. These are the available spaces that were there. Gray is GYB. Black is the tournaments. Purple is American Made. And Lickety is this burnt orange here. We did discover something in talks with Lickety Split. We had canceled a lot of these dates in October and didn't make them aware of it. So we have a new process in place where we'll make sure that American Made and Lickety are advised of any major cancellations of playing time. And then in November, you can see we just have 2 tournaments scheduled, and American Made's already put in their request for these allot times, and everything else is available. So the recommendation would be to adopt a resolution approving a license agreement for the use of certain city facilities and baseball/softball fields to Galt Youth Baseball with the amendment that we talked about in that agreement that we would add to it.
So, and maybe I'm wrong, but so one of the concerns that I had been hearing was just that the other organizations were afraid that GYB was going to monopolize the softball complex and there wouldn't be any available fields. Because really what we're talking about is the softball complex. I mean, if GYB pretty much has semi-exclusive, let's call it a monopoly amongst organizations, right, on the other two fields, the other two parks, then really it's just the softball complex that we're talking about. So I think, you know, it doesn't seem unreasonable. And I, again, all the respect to GYB for all that they're doing, and I generally don't have a problem with what they're doing with Metaview and Harvey because, you know, I know Harvey especially, I mean, the park wouldn't even be the same if they hadn't made it what it is. But I'm afraid that we're getting to a point now where we're kind of creating an entire monopoly on all the available fields in the city, which these are community parks. And I know it saves us money, but at the same time, like, we can't just, I mean, if I came to you and said, hey, if I paid to mow Lions Park, you know, my family have priority preference on using that park and nobody else can? I mean, you know, we wouldn't do that. But we're kind of, and we did it to some extent with these two parks, but now my problem is that we're doing it with softball, which is the only place left. So my questions would be twofold. One would be, I know that the scheduling is based on numbers, but I'm assuming that GYB probably, they have baseball and softball. So GYB is going to probably be using, I'm assuming, using Harvey and Meadowview for their baseball. I mean, preferably, and I could be wrong. So that leaves us, what I feel like is happening is we're using the entire numbers for GYB, the 600 and something, against the others when we're talking baseball, softball versus just,
No.
We're not doing that?
We're not. That was just a wide range to show you the size of the groups. When I take into account the use of the sports complex, it's the number of teams that would play there. So in the fall, baseball has to play there a minimal amount because they only have one other field with lights. In the spring, they have their own fields for baseball, and there should be no baseball played at the sports complex.
So what is the main complaint that you've been getting from the other organizations? I'm assuming it's something to do with scheduling, like they don't feel like they're not getting enough time, they don't think it's fair. What are the complaints, and what are your rebuttal to those?
So in the 2020 MOU, it states, because again, they took over several levels of softball from us. And in that MOU, it states that the relationship between city and GYB will benefit the citizens of Galt by ensuring that a properly organized and managed youth baseball, softball leagues will exist in Galt and will have regular access to necessary facilities. And again, I think that word necessary is in there. Not to monopolize the sports complex. It's if they need it and they can justify it by the numbers, they'll be able to use it. They cannot just say, I want Monday through Friday, 5 to 9, and they have 4 teams. And I don't believe in the past they would ever do that. But, I mean, even in the previous MOU, it stated that access to necessary facilities. And this MOU says the same thing. And to be quite honest with you, I'm coming close to ending my time with the city of Galt, and I want to put a lot of this stuff in writing so it doesn't get lost in translation when the next person takes over this. So if I can put a specific of things in writing so the next person can pick up the MOU and thoroughly understand it, it's a good thing.
All right, I just have one last comment, and I want to hear from maybe the public comment or my constituents here. But I just, I was really hoping this would all be sorted out and be kind of agreement before it came to us. And I think that when you and I spoke about this a while back, I was under the understanding that everybody was agreeable with what was being put forward. And I know maybe we're back to that right now, maybe with what Mr. Hines just mentioned, but we'd have a room full of people here. So when I showed up today, I'm assuming that wasn't the case. So I think it's unfair for the council to be wading into this stuff who shouldn't be up to us to decide. I mean, this should be all sorted out before it comes to us.
Well, it is up to you. unfortunately, that you're the decision maker. This is our recommendation to you. We've met with American Made. The city manager has set an appointment with them. I met privately with them, then we met again with him and GYB. I've been in communication with the president of Lickety, and I thought we had an understanding and an agreement. So I was surprised to see as many people here today as you are.
And so I just wanted to say, well, first of all, we appreciate you folks showing up and supporting your league, and that's great. And I got a chance to meet your leadership, and that was really cool. One of the things I want to let council know is that we anticipated that there would be some conflict with this agreement, and that's why we had this meeting with GYB and American Made. The assertion was at least communicated to me that Lickety was already taken care of and they're okay with it. I find out tonight that they're not particularly okay with the way this is laid out, and so that's why we had those discussions while the public hearings were going on. We came up with this compromise, but I did indicate to Lickety that I'm going to reconvene that meeting, and this time I want Lickety in the room, and we're going to work this out. Now, council has the option of postponing this until I have that meeting, but whether council passes it or not, we're going to have that meeting because I need these organizations to work with each other and to understand each other. And so I just wanted to let you all know. So you have that option. We can pass on it for now and let me have this meeting, or we can go forward with the amendment that's and the MOU that's before you.
And just so you know, representatives from GYB are here if you needed to ask them any questions.
Who controls the scheduling of this cover complex? Will the city be the person in charge of that?
The city is the one who
Giving the preference to
approves
them, but the city will still be the.
and monitor the numbers that are registered and playing there.
All right. Council, anybody? Sorry. You may go ahead.
No, it's fine. You asked great questions and you're involved, so you understand it quite well. That's good. I'm curious, you showed percentages that look fair, but if you're always getting the field at the worst time of day, you may get an equal percentage of time, but it's not necessarily equal quality. So I just want to throw that out there because, is there times when the fields will be empty, like the person the group that has priority, is there times when they will, if they have that slot on the schedule, there will be children playing those days, those times. There's not going to be empty fields, right?
There shouldn't be empty fields if they're scheduled, but there are circumstances where things happen, and if somebody does bring that to our attention, we check on it. When talking to the American Made president, he said that this is happening quite often. I told him to call me when he does see it. I haven't yet to receive a call of a specific time in which it happened. Now, let me show you this, though, here in September, when GYB is full-blown going in their fall program. Every Wednesday, Diamond 3 was available for September and laid empty because nobody requested it. From what I'm told, it didn't fit into certain times for their coaches, but a field went unused the entire time.
That's Diamond 3 at a certain late night? What was this?
All day. Nobody used it at all.
And it was because of the day of the week? It was a Wednesday or something?
Yes.
Anybody on the council?
I had one question related to the landscaping. They hire a landscaping contractor. Is that subject to the city's approval?
Yes, approved by the city of Galt.
Okay.
And to the city's mowing guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Solis, one thing just for the public, can you explain what's mean semi-exclusive contract?
Yeah, so this definition is actually in the staff report. It's pulled from the staff report. So basically an organized group would not be allowed to use that, where a member of the public, a small group, could use it. a family picnic, again, father-son, mother-daughter, whatever dynamic that would be.
Oh, then my next question is why are we doing a semi-exclusive? Because they're doing more, they're taking care of both of the field?
Yes, they're maintaining the field and they're putting quite a significant number of monies into it to improve them. And if you'd like to talk about those improvements, again, representatives of GYB are here to tell you specifics if you'd like to hear it from them.
Yeah. The other thing is, did we figure out what kind of cost, they know they're going to do every week for mowing both field? Because they're going to spend that money from their organization. What kind of ball figure, what kind of money? You mentioned something by the hours, but can you might we calculate what kind of money they're spending so we give them a semi-exclusive?
I'm not sure what type of money that they're spending on that. It would be whatever negotiated price they would come up with the group that that's mowing. Again, they're also not bound by specific requirements as the city is, so they may get it for a cheaper price.
Thank you, and I would like to thank you. Everyone come to this council, this council chamber. Thank you, Galt Youth Baseball. They're a big organization. They're giving a lot of things to the city, but they're also a small organization. They are same important everybody else because they live in Galt. All the parks is belong to the community. So before this MOU, you said you talked to all of the organization, try to accommodate everybody. So
yes, I've talked to both presidents, American Made and Lickety Split.
And they was okay with the MOU, or they have some?
I don't think that either one of them liked the MOU. But to be honest with you, the same thing would have happened without this MOU with the current MOU that's in place.
You want to hear some public comment?
Thank you.
I just have a quick question, if I may, and then I do want to hear public comment. So I have a question, and the way I see this is kind of two different things, right? We have an MOU for services provided by a nonprofit that we've been partnering with for well over 25 years. And then we have field allocation issues. The problem is that part of the MOU includes that, right? So my question is this. As part of Galt Youth Baseball, and you may or may not know, or maybe the representative could speak to this, as part of that organization, is there a enrollment number or number of teams that are not recreational, meaning they have cuts or?
As far as I'm aware, and the president can clarify, that everybody who signs up gets to play. The only time I believe there are cuts is when they go into their all-star teams at the end of the season after everybody's played.
But that's part of a recreational program, right? Okay. So I would like that clarification of whether or not there is a competitive arm to GYB, whether it be either baseball or softball. And then, and the reason I'm asking is because for scheduling reasons, and I may know a little bit about this, there is a difference, especially if you have a local competitive team, probably like Lickety Split, who probably wouldn't have any necessary interest in a weekend slot, right?
Correct.
Because they're playing in tournaments away.
Both American Made and Lickety typically would not want a Saturday or a Sunday because they are playing away in tournaments.
Okay. And I don't mean to get into the weeds on this, but you and I have had conversations about field allocation and some modes and methods to equitably distribute those through a process in which folks had the same opportunity given your recreational piece and competitive. So so I don't want to necessarily get into that, but that is something that if we need to, I certainly would like maybe the Park and Rec Commission to take a look at that if we need to. I suspect our meeting might, with the city manager and you, might, you know, have some of that all figured out, but.
I believe that, I mean, this falls under city council, this MOU, but as I told Lickety, I plan on taking, as I try and get everything documented and put in writing, the procedures that need to be followed in the future going forward, so it's clear of how we will be, although I have my own process, it's not written down. And what we'll do is we'll write it down, have it, and approved by or reviewed by the Parks and Rec Commission. I don't think that part of it needs to come to you unless one of the organizations feels that it's not fair.
Okay. Is there somebody from GYB that can address those couple of questions real quick?
Kayla George. There she
is. Hello, I'm Kayla George. I'm the president of Galt Youth Baseball. So, and softball. But as to your question about kids getting cut or a competitive team, for the baseball side, everyone who signs up makes a rec team. And then after the rec season is finished, actually during the rec season, we have tryouts for our all-star teams. And then there are cuts made there if we have enough kids to try out. But everyone has already played in the rec season. For softball, it was the same thing last year, but we are running a pilot program this year for a select softball team. It's going to be one age group, which is 10U, and the tryouts are before the season starts. But anyone who plays on our select team does have to play rec ball with us as well. So everyone is signing up for rec ball, but we are also having select tryouts, and one of the caveats of being picked on the select team is you are playing during the rec season as well.
Like the
Does that make
future
sense?
rec season?
This spring season. So the tryouts are in December, and then our spring season starts at the end of January.
So they're going to be playing both?
Yes, they would play both concurrently, and then the schedule would be made around so the select players would not play on certain weekends, so they could play at the select tournaments.
Okay, I understand.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to hear public comment now. Do we have any public comment? Okay. How many people have turned in speaker sheets? Six. Okay. I'm going to just ask that everybody, I mean, I have the liberty to limit the time because of the amount of speakers. I think 6 is not exorbitant, but I'm going to want to hold you guys really strictly to the 5 minutes. We can't be going over, or else I will limit the time, and I want to be fair to everybody who wants to speak. So you'll have up to 5 minutes to speak. Go ahead, and who's our first speaker?
Misty Springmeyer.
Hello. Ready?
Go ahead.
Right. Well, thank you for your time and allowing me to speak. My name is Misty Springmeyer, and I'm the president of Lickety Split Softball. Almost 2 years ago, my friend Liz Garcia and I noticed a need for a local competitive team in Galt. We grew up in a time in Galt where softball was the thing. There was major competition and softball was thriving. Galt was truly a powerhouse of softball. Our daughters were now at the age where they wanted to get into competitive softball, and we obviously wanted them to share the experiences that we had. We began searching and found that there were no local competitive teams for their age. So we decided to throw some girls together, split the cost evenly between parents, and play a few tournaments over that summer, and it was a huge success. We knew right then and there that this was going to be great. We later we began talking with our third founder, Katie Scott. She came aboard, and we just knew it was perfect. We're a female-led organization. We all have the same vision to empower young women, teach them hard work, tenacity. We want to raise future leaders, build friendships, and have fun while playing softball, and maybe win a few championships along the way. This was our first full season. We had tryouts, and we were able to field 6 teams, allowing 78 girls in the community to play competitive softball our first year. Our organization participated in over 30 tournaments throughout the state, all representing Galt. We even hosted a tournament at the Galt complex that was just indescribable. We brought 7 teams from other communities into our town, and the atmosphere was amazing. It truly felt like softball was back. There's been some amazing organizations in Galt over the years. We even have a former coach here that coached many of us, including my fellow coaches. So we have a long history here in Galt, and it really felt like softball was back. While we can look at our success that I just mentioned, obviously the most successful part is the girls and the memories and the friendships that they've made. We know that this would not have been possible without the complex and the help from the city. We are a nonprofit organization. All of our coaches are volunteers, and we strive to keep our fees low so that all girls have an opportunity to pay, which is why a city facility is so important to us. We don't have the funding to go out and pay for some of these indoor or top-notch facilities that some of the bigger teams will do. We understand the city's financial situation, and we also understand that this MOU would free up workers that could then go work on other parks and in other areas of the community, and we understand this would save the city money. But we also wanted to come and just show the council who we are and just express that we feel this MOU could hurt youth in the community. Like I said, we have 78 girls as of now. I know that there's another softball team in town, the Galt Patriots. They have 1 team. And let me back up. Our organization currently serves girls 7 to 14. The Patriots have 1 team, and they're a little older than us, but they serve girls, I think, 13 to 16 years old. And then there's American Made Baseball in the community that I believe has 3 teams. So they serve boys in the community. Without locations to practice, it would be very difficult for all of these organizations. Throughout the summer and fall, we routinely were denied usage of the complex because it was being used by Galt Youth Baseball. We were able to find other locations, often at our COEs, sometimes in large patches of grass, only to drive by the complex to see that it was sitting empty. During the summer, the Parks and Rec director, Armando Solis, he was very helpful to our organization, and he developed a plan that we feel was common sense and fair to all organizations. I'm going to try to speed up. We were told that field time would be allotted based on youth in the program that had a need for that facility. We feel that that's fair, and we worry that without that verbiage in the MOU, it can be overlooked and we could be left without a place to practice. So we worry that that would obviously negatively affect many girls. Before the meeting, we did have a chance to speak, and Mr. Solis explained that ultimately that would be his plan to allocate the field usage based off, in our case, other softball players. That is the verbiage that we're hoping would be in the MOU.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McMyer.
Thank you.
Public comment?
Katie Scott.
Ms. Scott?
Good evening, council. Let me preface this by, I wrote this yesterday before we had our communication with the city manager and Armando today. But I still feel that it's necessary to express my concerns as well as others' concerns, because although we came to somewhat of an agreement, it is not in writing. And I am a contractual type thinker, and if it's not in writing, it's not true. So let me give you a little background. I've been coaching various youth sports in the Galt community for many years now, and I'm currently coaching the 10U Girls Lickety Split travel team. The girls on my team have all participated in youth softball here in Galt since they were 5 years old, and just recently we all decided to take the next step into competitive travel ball and push the kids to play at a higher level. As I discussed options with Misty and Liz, we found that there was much more interest in a travel ball organization as girls of all ages, 6 all the way through high school, were ready to take that next step. This 2022 year, they have proven greatly that they needed just that. They have excelled against other cities representing Galt and gaining recognition and quite a few trophies along the way, just one last weekend, 8U. I myself played college ball, and any college player or coach will tell you that a competitive travel ball team is a must when looking to improve your athletic ability and overall development of young leaders. Reading this MOU, it's incredibly disheartening and quite unsettling. In reading the stated verbiage and summarizing it, that another local youth sports organization is wanting to take priority all year, February through December, for the Galt softball complex. They're going to perform maintenance on 2 other baseball fields, not the complex, but in return, still get priority over that. I find it hard to understand how another local youth sports organization can have the boldness to state that they want February to December, Monday through Friday, 5 to 9, and then all day Saturdays during the spring league. The calendar that we saw had Friday, Saturday, Sunday available almost every single weekend, but as you guys know, we tournament every single weekend, which left us with nowhere to practice except for fields outside of Galt, sometimes McCaffrey. I also think that it's important to say that we did start this, and Misty started this initial process 2 years ago, and now GYB has decided after 20 years to begin a travel ball team, which is now in direct competition with what we are trying to build. And now them having priority over the softball fields because of rec and that is scary to us because we feel like we're not going to have a home here in Galt anymore to practice. The fields were typically vacant even when signed up for, and there can be no argument about that. But if this MOU is going to save our city so much money that we can even consider the effects on a large majority of youth athletes in Galt, then at least consider some change in the verbiage of it. Nowhere in there are we guaranteed any time to practice in the city at the complex because it is not in writing. And we have found and learned our lesson the hard way that can be used against us. Well, my team practiced in parents' backyards in a field in Herald this fall and at McCaffrey when it was available. At the very least, one of the complex fields sat unoccupied at that very same time. And my assistant coach lives across the street to verify that. So I only suggest what is fair to the taxpayers and children of the community: 3 things. 1, before any consideration of the MOU, have it redrafted to include equal access to the complex to all youth sports that represent the city, instead of purposely pushing out the next level teams who will one day filter into our high schools and represent us there. 2, distribute field usage evenly based on factual numbers of softball participants in each organization. Not softball and baseball, softball participants. As we learned, we are unable to use the other 2 fields. We have 3 fields that we can use at the complex. So when we take into consideration baseball and softball, baseball has all of those fields to use. We have 3. So in considering field usage time, we'd like that to only include the softball players of this community. And then number 3, consider why. Why would the softball complex be used as leverage when no maintenance or upkeep is being done at that park to give anyone priority over anyone else? And why would baseball take priority over any softball team using their own softball fields? What is that telling these girls? All we are asking is for fairness, and the MOU does not represent that, nor does it make sense for one organization to even want to monopolize all of the fields in this whole city, if not to be restrictive of those who are not participating in their organization. Obviously, we're passionate about the livelihood of our children, and since day one, our president has had to fight tooth and nail for everything we have. Things that should have been very easy have been made into obstacles. And it's very possible for us to coexist, all of these sports organizations together, but it just cannot be one-sided. So, thank you for your time.
Mayor, may I make a point of clarification, please? So in the MOU, it states GYB will receive priority scheduling at the sports complex during their spring and fall leagues. It actually says that in the MOU. And the other 3 softball fields we do have available are at McCaffrey. There are 3 softball fields there.
So what you just said is in response to her comment about no guarantees in the verbiage? Is that what, she made a comment about there was no
She
guarantees?
stated that it's theirs priority February through December.
Oh, the months,
I'm
okay.
saying it specifically says GYB will receive priority scheduling at the sports complex during their spring and fall leagues. So typically that's, depending on when they start. And again, a lot of this is open-ended because we don't know when a start date is, when an end date is. That's the way we run our basketball league right now. So we just can't, this has to cover every season, not just one.
I have a comment, and not to be argumentative, Mr. Solis, but these organizations know when they're starting. They know when they're ending, and more specifically, our recreational leagues know when the first All-Star tournament's happening. They know when fall ball starts. So we may need to put dates more specific in the MOU at some point to address that. And so, in terms of the competitive groups, certainly softball, they know when the tournaments are. I mean, they know you can get into a tournament pretty much every weekend from, the end of August to, for fall ball, through Turkey Day, and certainly in the spring. So I think what we may need to do, and again, I don't know that this is part of the MOU specifically, but we may have to come up with some kind of more date certain. And I would like to continually explore the select issue with GYB, because I think that, and I'll reiterate what I said, there's a difference between those two, and there's different needs. And so to better identify their needs would probably be wise to look at that. So, but my point is they know when they're playing. They know the dates they're starting.
They have general dates, yes. We know that they'll probably start in February. Exactly what date, to put those days on there, it's going to be a little difficult. And if you want Kayla to speak to that, she probably could.
No, I don't need Kayla to speak to that. I mean, I lived in that world for a long time. It's been a long time, but I lived in that world for a long time. And I knew when opening day was happening every single year. Anyhow, I think that goes more to the field allocation issue, but we certainly can hit that as we need to.
Next public comment?
Janine DeBastiani.
Hello?
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Janine, and not only am I standing here as a parent, but a concerned longtime Galt resident and community member. The purpose of these community fields are for the entire community to use and have fair access to. They are not meant to be monopolized, which is essentially what could be happening here if this MOU passes the way it is written. Let me just give you another example to illustrate that's not related to sports, okay? But if Sean actually kind of touched on something earlier about this, but if my family and I were to come to the Parks and Rec and say, hey, we're gonna go and care for and maintain the dog park just to help the city out here, but only our dogs and our family can use that during the prime hours, or just to say, till it gets dark, because nobody would really use it after that, right? But anyways, if I was to say that, you wouldn't say that that was fair, nor would you think that was fair. All the other Galt families here with dogs and families, they would be punished because my family's taking care of something. The council wouldn't allow this. Of course not. But if this MOU passes, the way it's written, it's like saying that those that are not part of the GYB family shouldn't have a fair chance to use those fields. As the MOU has mentioned, GYB has taken over Galt Parks and Rec baseball and softball programs, which we all know. However, the MOU also states that GYB claims to need the sports complex from February 1st to December 31st of each calendar year to accommodate the programs they assumed from Galt Parks and Rec over the years. Well, all of my kids played Galt Parks and Rec softball and baseball, and those programs were only held in the spring from about March through May each year. So since it's stated that GYB needs the fields to accommodate the programs they assume from Galt Parks and Rec, then those would actually be only from March through May, not from February through December. Spring is actually the recreational season for baseball and softball. Also, many of us parents already help to maintain these fields when our organizations are allowed to use them. We drag and water them before games and drag them after practices as well. If there was a mower there to use, I'm sure there would actually be some volunteers to do that as well. I mean, what if we came forward as an organization and said, we'll handle all of the maintenance and we'll do it twice a week? Would we be awarded the priority access instead, since basically we'd be the highest bidder per se? It kind of seems, of course, all about money and saving that, but why is this even the discussion at this point? November 8th is just a week away. If Measure Q were to pass, would this even be a conversation right now? Would you be willing to just sell these parks to the highest bidder? Because if the MOU goes through, this is essentially what you would be doing. The reason shouldn't even be up for discussion at this time, because from what I understand, if passed, the council has promised to use the Measure Q funds for our Parks and Recreation Department. Yes, as you can see, I'm here currently as a lickety-split softball parent, but I'm also a parent of a former player of the Galt Illusion softball that was around many years ago. Yes, some organizations will come and go, and you may think that maybe these current organizations here tonight won't last, but who's to say another organization won't start up? Or who's to say the Galt Shamrocks, or Galt Illusion, or Galt Elite, or the many other nonprofit programs won't start their programs back up at some point? Giving priority to just one organization without guaranteeing that there will be fairness across the board to all of the Galt community organizations is not right. There are multiple fields, and as far as the complex is concerned, why not at least compromise and only give priority for 2 of those fields instead of all 3? Or why not continue with the current way and use the numbers-based system to determine priority, like Armando was speaking of? There's just got to be a better way to make sure that we're not taking away opportunities from the youth in our community and driving them away to the neighboring communities. We need to act as one community. We should all want to make the programs here successful for the kids in this town. With that said, I respectfully ask that you hold off on this decision at least until after November 8th. If at that time there is still a need for this discussion to take place, then I ask that this MOU is revised with wording to include and specify some sort of safeguard to ensure that any one organization is not going to be able to monopolize these community fields in our great American little town. Thank you.
Thanks.
May I address a few items?
Yes, sir, please.
I just want to let you know that under the current MOU, GYB has sole use of Meadowview and Harvey currently. The current MOU states that. What this MOU is trying to do is GYB is trying to give back to the city. They're trying to be a good partner. So even if you said no today, they're still going to have use of Meadowview and Harvey in here. And in the current MOU, you would still provide them fields necessary to do the program. So even if you walk away, they're making it sound like it's about the money. And it's not. They're trying to give back. So the current MOU, if you just leave it and say no today, they're still getting a lot of what they're getting now.
Well, I don't disagree that, and I understand that. Thank you for clarifying that. What I take from this so far, and again, we have more people to speak, and I think we're all kind of just, the council's absorbing this at the moment, but GYB has exclusive use of those of Meadowview and Harvey because of all the work that they do, and it seems rightfully so. Although, as the young lady who spoke a minute ago, as she stated, outside if someone came and said, "Can I use this?" and just in trade for taking care of it, I mean, it starts out small, but if it gets to a point, it might be a problem. But I don't have a problem with that arrangement that's going on. I know that they do phenomenal work at those parks. And I also understand that they took over the Galt softball program from us when we did budget cuts, and that they run the Galt rec program for softball. And I think it would be only fair that whatever necessity time that they need for that program, that they would be giving that in priority amongst all else at the complex. But what I have a problem with is just trying to wrap my head around outside of that parameter that they're also given preference to their other stuff. And I struggle. There's a lot of good comments that have been made tonight, and it's true that, their GY is giving back. They are. I mean, and they continue to do so. But I think it kind of sounds like, I mean, if another organization stepped up and said, "Well, we'll take care of everything," to a higher level, are we just going to because it's going to become like a bidding process? I mean, we have to be very careful, because at the end of the day, these are community parks. And I just don't want to get in a situation where you mentioned McCaffrey and stuff, but, there is something to be said about, and I forget who said it, but, these softball fields can only be used, these softball teams can only use the softball fields. Baseball can use any of the fields. So I think it's a little bit of I want to use unfair. Unfair is probably not the right term, but we need to. I want to hear the rest of the public comment, but I think at this point right now, I'm just like, we need to have Mr. Hines, which he said he would, and yourself, and all the parties involved sit down at the same time, in the same room, at the same table, and hash this out, because I want it to come back to the council where I don't have a room full of people upset about something. I want to be able to contact the head of Lickety Split and them say, "Yes, we met. We came up with something that we feel is fair, and we're okay with that." And the president of American Made can say, I can speak to him, and he can say, "Yes, I agree, it's fair," and whatever other organization, and it's all fair. And then it comes to us, and we don't have to, be trying to approve an MOU with a lot of parents and coaches in the room that don't feel it's fair. I want it to be fair to everybody. I want it to be fair to GYB for what they do, but I also want to be fair and consistent with these other organizations. So I just want to throw that out there at this point. That's where I'm leaning at this point. I mean,
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
I would recommend that we would continue with the public comment because I'm going to make a similar request after public comment is done.
Okay.
Okay?
So we have 3 more comments, correct? 2 more. Okay. And next comment?
Yeah. Okay. I was going to also say, it's the public's right to speak on public comment, but if the direction is going to be moving towards continuing this and having that conversation and coming back, maybe the people that are requesting comment.
So just to be clear, I'm not certain, but there's a possibility that council could just push this off and continue this conversation after this particular meeting takes place. So we have 2 people left that have signed up to speak. If you would like to still speak, you're more than welcome to do so. You have that right. If you decide you would no longer want to speak, because that we're probably going to we haven't decided yet for sure, push this off and have that meeting, then I'm just offering that to you. So the 2 people that are left to speak are who?
Liz Garcia,
Liz Garcia, and who else?
Kadena Lamson,
So would both of you like to still speak? Yes?
Liz Garcia.
Okay. Ms. Lamson, would you like to speak? Okay, come on up. Go ahead and state your name, and then you can go ahead and start speaking.
Cadence Lamson, and I'm Kayla Munn, and we are on the 14U Lickety Split team. We've both been playing for Lickety Split since last summer season. We have been having weekly practices every Thursday night, but wishing to have more practices a week. We feel that the complex should be open to other teams other than just Galt Youth Baseball, because it's simply a safer place for us to practice at. There's lighting available for us, which also allows us to practice longer and later during the weeks. Giving that means more practices for us. Lickety Split has been practicing at the Arcoe field where there is no light, and most of the time we have to share the field with the soccer teams that are playing games there. Due to these soccer teams playing, we cannot do batting practice because we do not want to risk hitting a parent or a child. It is getting darker earlier now, and it is not safe playing in the dark because we cannot see the ball while doing drills.
Lickety Split is a family. We have bonded so much in these past season, and it is a community-grown team. It gives us more meaningful practices as for us older girls to practice for high school teams and for us to go further for our college seasons.
Softball means a lot to us, and we want to go as far as we can in life with it. Most of us want to go to college playing softball, and without proper places to practice, we might not be able to make that happen. So it would mean a lot to us and the younger girls to have the complex back for practices. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
So, Mr. Mayor, what I would propose to council is that we hold this item over and give me the opportunity to meet with these organizations, especially since I was led to believe that Lickety Split was okay with this MOU. So I've got to settle that issue first. And then we're going to meet with American Made, Lickety Split, and GYB, and we can figure if we can hammer this thing out, and then when we bring this back to you, it will be fully baked, and we'll have the endorsement of all the organizations. So I make that proposal to you and the other council members.
Council, thoughts on that?
That would be excellent. I would like to say thank you to everybody that came. You made a difference in the positive, so thank you so much. I'd also like to mention that we have a pool that loses roughly $80,000 a year, and we keep it because it's good for the community, not because it makes money. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
I would be certainly good with holding this over. And then a couple things I noted that need to be cleared out as part of that discussion. On page 10 of 10, it does indeed say that Galt Youth Baseball Organization has, utilization by the Galt Youth Baseball Organization of Galt Sport Complex are as follows from February 1st to December 31st. Then it goes on to say that they have priority during their spring and fall leagues. So both things are true as they're written. So that's one thing that needs to be clarified. And secondly, yes, every year, as Councilmember Lozano said, every year they know their start date, but that date may not be the same every year. So somehow this needs to reflect whatever their start date is, because they may know it months in advance, but we can't write a permanent document with that. So, but I am happy to move it over.
Is that okay with you, Paul?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hines, your recommendation. I'm happy, and that's why we get the opportunity to talk to each of the organization.
Yeah, and I would like to see if we could have, if possible, I mean, I think there needs to be some language in there about guaranteeing some sort of minimum allowable times, regardless, just a minimum. Maybe one particular field is, I don't know. I'm going to leave it up to the experts to our department head to hash that out, and our city manager, of course, to hash that out with because you guys are the more knowledgeable on the, Mr. Sleesher, more knowledgeable on the programs. But I just want this to come back, like we said, like you said, I want this to come back where all this has been sorted out, and it doesn't have to be like this. I do appreciate everybody being here tonight, and I wanted to say one last comment is that this tonight and the people that showed up will show you how important Parks and Rec is to this town. And a lot of people don't realize that until you have some little thing like softball, and then you fill the room. This is probably more council people sitting in the chambers than we've had all year. So, Sorry for the wait, folks, all night. I know it was a long night, and I know you get a lot of young ones. So you're welcome at this point. So we are going to continue this item on until that meeting happens. So you're welcome to stay for other stuff, or you can leave. But again, thank you all for coming tonight, and we wish you a good evening.
I may have a comment here. Hold on one second, please. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the little ones for being out here on a school night. This is government at its best, right? And I know it can work out. I don't believe we have too few fields to accommodate everybody. That is wherein lies the problem, right? So, thank you to the organizations that came tonight. Thank you for what you do for our kids in our community. My heart is softball. Both my girls played, and it's an awesome sport. Love baseball as well, coached forever. But I just want to make mention, we did, as a council, receive 2 emails prior to tonight, and I want to thank those folks. One I recognize, the other one I don't, for emailing in ahead of time also. We certainly appreciate that input as well. So hopefully we can come to a resolution, and I would be in favor of holding this one over as well. Thanks.
Thanks.
Let's wait a minute for everybody to clear out that's going to leave. Yeah, I'll give you, yeah. I'll give you. You're gonna be next, Mr. Farrell. Just think, the wine's gonna be a little bit older when you get home. It'll just be a little bit better. That's right.
Cabernet is going to be more aged. Right.
Yeah.
No, not yet. Or call ahead. Yeah,
Now you get to give your presentation to an empty chamber. I really wanted to let all these people hear about your very descriptive. I really wanted everybody to hear your great reports, but I just felt like there was too many things and we needed to move it up. Yeah, I'm just like dying in here.
Yeah, because the meeting's going late, it just kicked over.
My God.
Yeah, all of a sudden I just
Public hearings have to all go first, so we can't postpone them until midnight.
Hey, the kids got a civics lesson tonight. That's the silver lining, right?
Are you sure is that the lesson you want to give them?
Yeah. That was a.
No. I think it was a good lesson because we don't have that kind of 3 hours. It was good with the motions and clarification.
Yeah.
I think it was good.
I'm okay with it. It was just funny,
3 hours. They weren't on social media. That was good. No screen time. They actually had to
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I caught what was ever going around, whatever was going around last week.
Just for the record, I'm going to hit my cabinet after I give my report. I'm not staying here for stuff. just for clarity.
I do. I'm ready for some wine. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. My husband works out at Bogle sometimes.
Yeah, I like that one. Robust.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if you would please rejoin us in the chambers.
We can start. We can start without him.
What do you,
He's campaigning on city time.
yeah. What do you call that? What do you call that? Something stop?
Whistle stop?
Stumping.
Yeah.
No, stumping?
Yeah.
Everybody in the room. You know me, I love conflict. That's what I do. That is what I.
All right. We're going to circle back to the irregular calendar. For our treasurer's office, item L1 from Mr. Farrell, our treasurer's report for the period ending September 2022.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, city council members. First, just let me give you a quick economic report. As far as this statistic comes from August of 2022, and that is that there were 41 homes that were sold in Galt. The median price, again, not average, but median, was $550,000. And that is up 17.8% from just a year ago. A year ago was $467,000. Okay? Now, unemployment. We all know what we see here. According to EDD, the unemployment rate here in Galt was 4%, and that, again, was end of August. In the county of Sacramento, they declared that the unemployment rate was 3.5%. So just a slight touch higher than the county average. We all have been watching interest rates very intently. We all have been reading reports about the Federal Reserve and how much they're raising rates. And I've been sitting in this chair as treasurer for 31 years now. And I have to admit, I have never seen the Federal Reserve raise rates so much in a short period of time, okay? And then for an average homeowner, we all know, we've all seen reports, that just a fixed 30-year mortgage now over 7%, okay? Where a year ago, that was, gosh, 3.5 maybe. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The Federal Reserve tomorrow is going to make another announcement. They're going to announce that rates are going to go up again 0.75%. And speculation is that they're going to also have another rate increase in December, probably about 0.5%. So given all that, their whole reason is they're trying to bring down inflation. Okay, and also, honestly, get unemployment a little bit up. Okay, whether you believe it or not, my personal belief is that we are in a recession. No one has really declared it yet. Okay, so, but having said all that, okay, and that's the economic report, it does create some opportunities, and those opportunities are for us as the city when investing comes into place. For example, I'm going to give you two examples. A year ago, and I'll say May 12th of 2021, I committed the city on a $4.5 million CD with Farmers and Merchants at the time, it was a super rate, okay, 0.45, okay? Now, that was great at the time, all right? But today, it's laughable. Okay, but so what I did is a little math calculation, and what I did was actually I surrendered that CD. So I took the, I'll call it a penalty or withdrawal penalty, and that withdrawal penalty was $20,000. Okay, there's 6 months left in that CD. Okay, so what I did is paid the $20,000 in the surrender penalty. Plus, of course, I would have earned about $10,000 more in interest for that 6-month period. So it's a total of $30,000. And you're probably thinking, what the heck did you do? Okay. Well, what I did is I then negotiated with Farmers and Merchants again for a 6-month CD. Okay, so same time period, at a higher rate, same dollar amount, $4.5 million, at a rate of 2.5%. Number one, I wanted to still keep it local, local bank, okay? So that was one priority. The second priority is 2.5%. When you do the calculation for that same 6-month period, the city will earn $56,000 in interest. So just by making that calculation and that one phone call to F&M, we're actually going to make $25,000, $26,000 more in interest for that same 6-month period, okay, even though we surrendered the CD. Okay, so that's an opportunity because of the higher rates. The other opportunity was we had $20 million sitting in the state of California LAIF account. And, LAIF,
the interest rates lag about 90 days or so with everything else. So they're still somewhat lower. One product, I don't want to get too much in the weeds. There is I'll say a financial network called IntraFi, I-N-T-R-A, capital F-I, okay? And that's a network of nationwide banks. So what I did was you have to go through a participating bank, which I did. And so what I did is I took that $20 million out of LAIF and put it $10 million through Zion's Bank, which is our third-party custodian, and also local Farmers and Merchants Bank. So I split those up. And then I requested that they invested into what is called an FDIC insured cash sweep. So what happens is they take the money and then they send it to IntraFi. IntraFi then takes that money and splits it among as many banks as needed to make sure in $250,000 increments to make sure that our money is then all FDIC insured, okay? Not only that, we are getting currently right now a rate of 2.4% just on that idle cash. Now, if we had it still in LAIF, at the end of September, we would be earning 1.51, okay? LAIF's rate is coming up, certainly like everything else. At the end of October, that LAIF rate was 1.75. Now, as soon as the Fed raises the rate tomorrow, the insured cash sweep will also increase. So when you do all the math, it's certainly a better rate. Our deposits are insured all by FDIC insurance. And when everything's said and done, just by doing that, we will earn in a year approximately $100,000 more in interest than if I left the money in LAIF. Okay, so again, higher rates create opportunities for us, and you just have to know kind of where to find them, I guess. So with that, I will say that for the quarter ending September 2022, the city earned $235,000 in interest. Now, if you remember all of last fiscal year, we earned just slightly short of $400,000. Okay, so this quarter by itself was $235,000. So when everything's said and done, I think 3 months ago I said we were going to earn about somewhere around $850,000 in interest. I think we're going to do a little bit better than that. We're probably going to come closer to $1 million or so. Okay, so if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. But that's pretty much what I have to report here tonight.
So the question is, can people take advantage of these rates with their money and earn more money with these higher rates faster than the equity in their house is going to start depreciating because the market changed?
Probably not.
Yeah. I've seen some big price slashes happening. It's crazy.
There are big price slashes, and when you have the higher mortgage rates, yeah, you're right. It's more of a buyer's market now as opposed to literally just 3 or 6 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Farrell? Always entertaining as usual.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I find it
we talk about interest rates and money and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was earlier in the night, I'd ask you more questions, but I'm not. So I just need a motion to accept the treasurer's report as submitted.
No public comment, right, Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
No. Nobody needs financial advice from you.
There's no public.
Matthew's here. He may have a comment.
Yes, we got one.
Yeah. All right.
I'll move to approve it.
All right. Motion made to approve by Councilmember Papineau, seconded by Councilman Lozano. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu.
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau.
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Report
Thank you, Council.
accepted 5-0. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for staying.
Yeah. All right. Since we moved the other item, L2, we are going to move on to the Human Resources Department. Item 3, subject is going to be the resolution approving the memorandum of understanding between the City of Galt and the Galt Police Department Civilians Association. Ms. Van Stein?
Yes, good evening, Council. I'm here to present the resolution for the GPDCA MOU. The resolution includes the MOU terms, which is a 3-year term. It also includes the updated salary schedule for the positions that are covered in the GPDCA bargaining unit. That includes your police dispatchers, lead dispatcher, certain police records positions, evidence technician, and also the community services officer as well. The resolution also authorizes an amendment to the fiscal year 22-23 budget to fund the salary and benefit adjustments in the MOU. By way of background, the GPDCA MOU expired June 30th of 2022. That was similar to the other 2 bargaining units. You approved those 2 bargaining unit MOUs the last council meeting. This MOU term is also for 3 years, so it goes back retroactively effective July 1st of 2022 through June 30th, 2025. Summary of the changes for GPDCA, it does include base pay increases for each of the 3 years of the MOU. It's a minimum of 2% per year. There are also additional adjustments that are higher to increase our market competitiveness for our recruitment and retention issues. It does include retroactive pay on the base pay only, back to the pay period beginning July 4th, 2022. We also included some language cleanup items to ensure we're in compliance with state and federal regulations. Some of those items include payroll practices or CalPERS regulations. It also includes resetting the city's medical premium contribution to cover 80% of the Kaiser premium. That becomes effective January 1st of 2023, which is our renewal date for our health plans. And the city will continue that 80% coverage through 2025. It also includes a one-time payment to the employees that are actively employed at the city, if you approve the MOU tonight, and the one-time payment is $2,000 per person. We also included a similar vacation accrual adjustment. This was similar language that you approved the last meeting for GPOA and GPSU. And it allows any new hires starting with the city that have at least 4 years or more of service with another public agency. They can start accruing vacation at a higher rate. And that higher rate is 120 hours per year versus 80 hours per year. And this last slide just provides the financial impact overview. The estimated 1-year annual cost is $80,831. That includes the salary adjustments, the health insurance increases, and also the one-time premium payment. The staff report does provide a breakdown of all the charges for across the 3 years of the contract. Since these are police department employees, the impact is to the general fund and also Measure R. And the one-time payment of $2,000 per person is going to be covered through the ARPA funds that have been received by the city. So that's the summary of the changes, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Van Stein. Does any of the council have any questions for Ms. Van Stein? Nope.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not have any question. This report is already self-funded. I would like to thank you for Mr. Hine. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for the consultant. And also thank you for the GPDCA representation. I know it's taken longer, but this is a process. Thank you, everybody, to come to the council. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, no further comment. Then is there any public comment?
No public comment.
All right. All right, looking for a motion to adopt a resolution approving the memorandum of understanding with Galt Police Department Civilians Association, GPDCA, for the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th of 2025. Revised salary schedules for GPDCA, And number 2, authorizing the amendment of the fiscal year 2022-23 budget to fund salary and benefit adjustments and other related changes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vandenberg, seconded by Sandu. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu.
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau.
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. MOU is approved 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item. Communication. Do we have any this evening?
None this evening.
All right, next item, City Clerk's Report. Item is introduce an ordinance of the City Council of Galt, amending section 5.50.000 of and adding chapter 5.75 to the municipal code and amending joint powers agency agreement relating to the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission. Tina?
I'm actually going to refer it to Mr. Splendorio.
Okay.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council. This is, and technically it's an ordinance. The city of Galt, like the other cities that and the member agencies of the JPA related to the Sacramento Sac Metro Cable TV Commission, have all entered in JPA regarding the administration of that commission. And as you know, there have been some changes as far as the census that has come out. There have been some changes in state law, and there are some other changes that have happened that the members wanted to make. I believe all of the members have adopted this ordinance, this agreement by way of an ordinance. Galt has yet to do it, and so that's why we're here tonight. Essentially, there's four changes that are being made. One is to take the term which currently ends for the JPA at December of 2024, and it basically gives it no specific end date unless 2/3 of the members want it to end. The second one is due to the fact that Rancho Cordova now has over 80,000, they have their own full-time board seat as opposed in the past it's been split. And that I think the current practice on the commission is that we've had our own seat and we're not splitting it with Rancho because of that. So this amendment is simply reflecting and conforming to current practice. So now there will be technically 13 board members on the board as opposed to 12, with one of them being split between Rancho Cordova and Galt, now that Rancho Cordova is over 80,000. The other third change that I want to highlight is that in the previous version of this agreement, it required the clerk to be supplied through Sacramento County, but the commission itself has provided those clerk services with some augmented services from the county. So again, this agreement is just meant to reflect that current practice. And then there are some other cleanups to update based on, I would say, clarifications and minor clarifications, and also updates based on state law. A couple years ago, for example, state law required certain wind down provisions in JPA agreements for settling debts and pension liability and that sort of thing. So that's what this agreement has included. And so this is an ordinance to amend Chapter 5.50.000, and it effectively adds the agreement to the municipal code, and that is just the way. Don't really know why they've done it that way, but that is the way they've done it, and that's the way all the members have done it for a period of years through all of the changes. So our recommendation is to introduce and waive the first reading, and make these changes to the approve the changes to the JPA agreement.
All right, thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Splendario? Do we have any public comment on this item?
No comment.
All right, well, with that, I'll be looking for a motion to introduce and waive the first reading by title only of the attached ordinance amending section 5.50.000 of and adding chapter 5.75 to the Galt Municipal Code and amending joint powers agency agreement relating to the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Vandenberg, seconded by Councilman Lozano. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu.
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau.
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano.
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Approved 5-0. Moving on, comments by staff. Mr. Hines.
Let's start with Finance Director Matt Boring.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to share our external auditors started their field work for the annual audit, so finance staff has been busy with that, and everything's going well so far.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Director Solis. In case you all haven't had enough of Director Solis this evening, here's an encore for you.
Good evening. Always smiling. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So a couple things. I wanted to thank the Galt Athletic Group. They had various teams come out and do a cleanup day for us on Elm Street on the 16th of October. So they did a great job. They tackled it. It's not finished. We'll finish it on our next scheduled day, but they were a huge help in getting that section started to be clean. Also, I want to remind everybody that the first Saturday in December is coming quick, and our lighting of the night event will be held on that day, and we're accepting applications now for parade entries. So, do you have any questions about that event or anything? No?
Director Solis, can you just speak a little bit about the trunk or treat event that happened this weekend? Or the event that happened on 4th Street? Was it a success?
I'm not sure. I did not attend.
Okay.
It was my grandson's first birthday party.
Understood. Okay, well, we heard from Gail Weber, one of the principals of that organization, and she was very appreciative of the Parks and Recreation staff and Public Works staff. Let's go with Chief Brian Kalinowski.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we closed our Traffic Awareness Month yesterday, and we will disseminate some information about our successes that we had and the different operations that we conducted during the last month, and we'll continue to work on those projects going forward. We have placed one officer, Officer Selvey, in one of our POP positions, problem-oriented policing positions. So you'll see some visible activity from him specifically related to some of our longer-term projects which deal with homelessness and other items in the community, and help us get some support in that regard. And I think that's all I have to report, and wish everybody the best for next Tuesday, and hopefully it works out for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Economic Development Manager, Amy Mendez.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Just briefly wanted to let everybody know that we've officially closed off the COVID-19 Business Assistance and Recovery Grant Program. So it looks like we have about, I need to clear this with finance, but about $560,000 remaining. So we'll be coming back to council with some recommendations on things to consider to utilize for that funding. And then last month, council approved a contract with Retail Coach for some retail recruitment assistance, and their first visit will be tomorrow. So I'll be meeting with them and touring the community. We have meetings scheduled with some brokers and with some city staff to kind of talk about the market analysis, what they've kind of discovered in their preliminary research, and some of the discussions they've had with their contacts on the retail front so far. So we will be reporting back to council at some point within the next couple of months with an update, so you guys have an idea of what the findings are and kind of what they're looking at for the retail recruitment efforts here. And that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
All right, Community Development Director, Craig Hoffman.
You want me at the mic? It's gone so well tonight. So
2,000 square feet.
I know. That's what they're going to be. So at the next city council meeting, you will be introduced to the 2022 building code, the 2022 fire code, and we'll be bringing back our ADU ordinance to do some cleanups with that. So with the building code and the fire code, it's very similar to what you saw with placards and the emergency vehicles. Their state overall writing standards, so I think more procedural than anything, but we're going to introduce you to a lot of changes that we're seeing at the state level. So, thank you.
Thank you. Public Works Director, Mike Selling. Sorry, Mike.
Evening again, Mayor and Council. Yeah, I just wanted to pass on some good news. Probably a couple of months ago, you may have recalled that I mentioned that we applied for a grant for household hazardous waste collection from the state Calorie Cycle. And we got word that we were fortunate to receive about $47,000 award in that. And so with that, we'll be using it to hold probably 2, maybe 3 events. And hopefully our first event will probably be somewhere around March, April next year. So look forward to that. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you very much.
So, Mike, before you leave the podium, we got our first rains today. Are there some sort of some commonalities folks should be aware of? Clearing drains, getting leaves out of drains, anything we need to let folks know?
Yeah, I mean, our crews are already out there. Thank you, City Manager. Yeah, our crews have already been out there in preparation for the rainy season, clearing storm drains, flushing pipes and whatnot. So, but obviously, if folks, see something of concern, I mean, they can always use the Galt Connect app or call in, and we can respond accordingly. So.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you, sir. And no comments from HR. I just wanted council to know I released a number of emails over the past couple of days. If you have any questions or concerns about any of that information, please feel free to reach out and we can discuss. And that concludes our comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to comments by city council members and future agenda items. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you for the staff giving us detailed and clean reports. Also like to thank you for the public comment. That's very important, and that's kind of feedback. I learned a lot of things from the public comment. I did attend a couple of events. One is I attended Trick or Treat on 4th Street this past weekend. There were a lot of kids and families came, more than expected. Thank you, Gail Weber, the organizers and participants for putting this together. I also attended the kickoff event for the Sunshine Food Pantry and Resource Center. A lot of community members show up. It will be located near the fire station, west side of town. I look forward to its opening. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Papineau.
Thanks to everybody, and particularly Craig and Armando and Frank for navigating through the hot seat there. That's all I have.
Councilman Vandenberg.
Thank you, everybody. I had just as much fun reading all the material as you did writing it. Thank you for city manager and the people involved to touch bases with the people, baseball, to basically kind of resolve it before we had to. So good luck on that, and I hope it comes back clean. Thank you.
Mr. Lozano.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I did attend the Trunk or Treat event on Saturday at 4th Street. It was actually pretty good. We gave out well over 700-800 pieces of candy, so there were a lot of people there. Really good event. Thanks to Gail Weber and Janice Barsetti and all those for putting that on. And then had the opportunity to attend the Dia de los Muertos event at the Galt Arno Cemetery on Saturday. It was very well attended. Father Miguel did a service out there, a mass, and it was, like I said, pretty well attended. Great event, great vendors, and entertainment as well. So I want to thank the public that came tonight that spoke, and also our city staff for everything that they've done. And special thanks to Human Resources and our Galt Police Civilians Association for coming to an agreement. I know it was a lot of work. I said this last time, and I'm going to say it again. All of that is behind us, and I'm going to do what we can do to help take care of the rest of our employees. So we're getting there. So thank you.
All right, just real quick, I as well attended the Trunk or Treat on 4th. It was a good event. It was hundreds. I mean, it could have been 1,000. I don't know. It was a lot. A lot of families, a lot of kids. It was a good event, so hopefully that can continue. I think that was the second or third year I think we've done that. Thanks for all that organized that. Also attended the event at the Station 45 for the Sunshine Pantry, and it was very, very well attended as well. It was a great event. And we wish them luck in their projects that are going. Just want to say I bumped into our litter abatement guy the other day, Mr. Selling. Every time I see him, I always say hello. I honk at him when I see him. He was out super early this morning, like really early, picking up when the weather was pretty chilly. And last time I talked to him, he said, which was about a week ago, he said he has picked up over almost 250 bags of garbage since he's been on that job, and multiple shopping carts, I don't know, dozens for all I know, and other debris. So he kind of gives me updates. I really appreciate what he's doing. So thank you, Mike, for providing that under your department. And lastly, I just want to say good luck to everybody in the election who's watching at home. My constituents that are in the election, good luck to all of them and the other people that are in the local races. And for everybody at home watching, don't forget to vote. You can vote at the Littleton Center across the way from City Hall, and you can also vote at the Department of Human Resources if you are someone who votes in person, and you can also drop your ballots at numerous locations. But it's important to vote. Exercise your democratic duty as an American and vote. So with that, I'll adjourn the meeting at 9:36 p.m. Good night.